Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular session of the Mayor and Council meeting for the town of Berlin. It is Monday, November 13th, 2023. Please join us in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. On behalf of all of us, I apologize for being a few minutes behind. We had our executive session that ran a couple minutes over, so thank you all for joining us. First item on our agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve agenda item number 1.
Second.
A second by Councilmember Nichols. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the consent agenda passes unanimously with Councilmember Murr absent. All right, up next is agenda item number 2, which is a citation from the town of Berlin to Miss Kate Patton for her service as Executive Director of the Lower Eastern Shore Land Trust. So if you don't mind. If there's anyone from your team you want to bring up too, you're more than welcome.
Pardon me?
I said if there's anyone from your team you want to bring up or family.
I thought this citation you were going to be in trouble.
Oh, no, come on. Those are Chief Downing citations. You don't want those.
Yeah, you don't want those.
You'll take mayoral citations every day of the week. If he writes them, it's a little frowned upon. But no, thank you so much for your service to our community and everything you've done to be a great partner to the town of Berlin. So I will read this and then I'll let you say a few words if you don't mind. So we congratulate you and thank Ms. Kate Patton for your 18 years of service in your role as Executive Director of the Lower Eastern Shore Land Trust. The Land Trust is crucial to preserving the unique characteristic of the Eastern Shore of Maryland, the small towns like the town of Berlin, and is the patchwork of forests and farms and rivers and creeks and bays that we live and play on every day. So thank you. Ms. Kate Patton has been exponential resource and creative and committed to the work, which has been a benefit to our community and our farmland and waterways. Therefore, I, Mayor Zach Tyndall of the town of Berlin and the council of the town of Berlin and our citizens in our community honor and thank you for your service to the town and through your unwavering dedication and work to the mission of the Lower Eastern Shore Land Trust. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope that you'll at least relax a little bit in retirement. But
You ain't seen nothing yet.
so we have some jobs. We can always use your assistance.
No, we have greatly appreciated our partnership with the town. And we have a lot to do still. We need to be more walkable, bikeable. We've got waterways to protect. And when we continue to grow, if we're not doing it thoughtfully and mindfully, we're going to be causing a lot more problems. And Berlin is the coolest town.
It is.
And we have a lot of opportunities here with people that are continuing to keep it that way. So I hope that I can be helpful in other ways.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it.
And thanks,
Another round
all
of
you
applause.
guys.
All right, up next is agenda item number 3. That is the one that's filled with all of our action items for this evening. So up first is motion 3A, 2023-53, to approve phase 2 of the Beacons strategic plan. I'm going to run point on that one. Phase 1 is near completion. We asked John Hickman and his team wanted to be here this evening, but as you can see, we have a rather voluminous meeting ahead of us tonight. So with that being said, we felt that it would be more applicable to ask him to either come to our second meeting in November or the first meeting in December. We're still trying to play out the 2 meetings agendas. So with that being said, we don't want to preclude them from continuing to move the study forward. and keeping us on track. So that's why we're asking to move forward with phase 2, which would also include a public presentation.
Well, I was really kind of hoping they would be here. I do have some questions for them about phase 2. So you're thinking of getting this on the next meeting?
No, they will be here for their public presentation for phase 1 at either our next meeting or the first meeting in December. We're still trying to figure out logistically if one will be a work session without an open session. That's the reason it's still undetermined when we'll be here.
Well, so with phase 1, before we move to phase 2, were we pleased with the results of the number of surveys we got back through that process?
I think that's a better question for them.
Okay. And if we weren't pleased with that and we wanted to try a new direction, could, by this moving to phase 2, preclude us from continuing to try to get more outreach into the surveys?
When we had our meeting of community partners with them last week, I did ask him that question, and he did indicate that he felt that the number of surveys we got back was on par with his experience.
How many did we get?
110.
I think, yeah, it was 100.
110 surveys from 5,000 residents?
Yep. And he indicated that was on par with his experience.
So
That's like 2%.
Yeah.
Okay.
if I can, before you go, if I could just finish my thought. I think that knowing that information as well, that it would make more sense to have them come back and talk about phase 1 before we go to phase 2.
We can table this and move it to the next meeting agenda. They have requested to stay on track, but I mean, another,
Well, okay.
I mean, but it's not anything for us, precluding us from saying, hey, look, we're gonna put pause on it until we have a chance to meet and talk.
Great.
So I will take a motion to that effect.
So
tabling.
I'll
So I
second.
have a motion by Vice President Burrell, a second by Councilmember Orris. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right. Up next is agenda item 3B, motion 2023-54, the approval of an agreement for legal representation in the class action lawsuit regarding PFAS contaminants. And it says Town Attorney David Gaskell is going to run point. Are you okay with me summarizing a few points?
I would rather you.
And you fill in the gaps? All right, so the Mayor and Council just had a closed session regarding PFAS chemicals with outside counsel. The Town of Berlin has decided to continue to remain in a class action lawsuit against 3M and DuPont. The current testing that we've had done revealed tests that are below 4 parts per trillion, and that is the threshold that's determined by the Maryland Department of Environment. I think it's important to note, as we all do, that this is not anything the Town of Berlin has done and that this is a result of outside factors. It's also important to note that it's not limited to the Town of Berlin, and it is in fact affecting municipalities, cities, counties across the country. The Mayor and Council and our staff remain vigilant in the testing, and we currently test at every 6-month intervals and will continue to do so. And that the Maryland Department of Environment and the EPA are the best resources to learn more about PFAS chemicals. And then Jamie, you're up.
Yes, also, like we said in the meeting, the water changes every day, so we test our water daily. Our raw and our effluent water to the drinking water to the people. And on our CCR report, we do have to report the PFAS and the PFOA and all the supplements that go with it.
And that CCR report is available.
And we have to advertise it in the newspaper, it's online, and there might be some copies left at the library. We have to publish it online, we have to do it in the newspaper, and there should be reports at the library.
And anybody that needs a paper copy of that report can also ask for one at
Just
customer
send
service.
send an email to us, and we can get them a copy.
And the best place for that is to your email for a copy of the CCR, or
Anybody's in general, I mean, customer service, if they walked in there, we can get them a copy.
that's probably the best place to
They
go.
can send it to the info@berlinmg.gov.
Okay, so if you would like a copy of the CCR report, info@berlinmd.gov, or customer service, which is downstairs at normal business hours. Thank you. The last thing is that we did have some of the testing that I just referenced. It is a 638-page preliminary report. We're not expecting any of the numbers to really change in the report, although it is labeled preliminary at this point. That will be released on the town website and available for, we're going to try our best, as a link for anybody that would like to view that document. We're also going to work on pulling out pages 8 through 14, which have some more concise testing parameters of the 3 wells. And the 3 wells include the well number 1 on Fountain Avenue, well number 2 on Franklin Avenue, and well number 3 on Branch Street. All right, with that being said, Town Attorney Gaspar, have I missed anything?
No, you haven't.
Okay.
And what is required, of course, the town, since it has a water system, is a part of that class action lawsuit. And we've been engaged, we've been approached by a group, Natchewati Law Group, who is part of the plaintiff's counsel in that lawsuit against 3M and DuPont. And if the mayor and council wishes to retain their services to represent the town in that class action, we're going to have to enter into a retainer agreement with that group. And I've gone through it several times. It's a standard contingency fee arrangement, similar to what we had in the opioid lawsuit. So I don't see a problem with it. But the mayor and council has to approve it publicly.
Thank you. So we'll take a motion by any one of the council members regarding motion 2023-54.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve motion 2023-54, the agreement for legal representation in a class action suit.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Councilmember Wars,
Second.
second by Councilmember Green. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-54 passes unanimously. Thank you. Up next is 3C, agenda item 3C, motion 2023-48, which is the West Street roadway reconstruction and utility upgrades design phase with DVF and I think it's on.
Josh Taylor
There we
and
are.
Stephen
Yep.
Masters is here.
All right, so why don't all come on up. Yep, I know. I saw regarding another Andrew sitting in there, and I'm just like, all right, thank you. Gentlemen, if you don't mind, this is a topic that we had asked you to come back with at the request of some of the council. So if you want to hit the high points and maybe the things that you've addressed in between, I think maybe we can reach some action on this.
Certainly. Thanks for having us back tonight. We had a good discussion at the last meeting with regards to the West Street project, which of course is a multi-dimensional project including roadway improvements, pedestrian improvements, potentially bikeway improvements, storm drainage, stormwater management, water, sewer. And one of the things we decided at the last meeting was to extend the work down around on Buckingham and pick up some of those homes there. So the proposal that's in front of you now was modified to include that additional design permitting and survey. Also, we met physically, also met at conversations with Darrell and Stephen regarding the big picture of stormwater management in Berlin. Modified our proposal slightly to include some additional design for the stormwater management work, also coordination efforts with EA and potentially with some of the adjacent property owners to assist the town with making sure that we don't make any detrimental impacts to the downstream conditions, because we know it's already a hot topic. So with the good input we got at the last meeting, we made some modifications here, stayed under the budgeted amount, and are looking forward to getting started. Unless you guys have any more questions.
Thank you. The only clarification I want to make is we have 3 Buckinghams. We have Buckingham Road, West Buckingham, and Buckingham Lane.
Yeah.
This is has been extended down a portion of Buckingham Lane.
Correct.
So, thank you for coming back. Just have one or two questions. This one might be, you might not be able to answer this one, and it might be a silly question, and everyone can laugh at me when they go home. Is it possible, from what I understand, water flows down, out on West Street, it either goes down?
Usually.
This, yes, but on the top side of West, it goes into Bottle. As opposed
On the Broad Street end.
Right, on the Broad Street, and it goes into Bottle, it goes into B Branch, Bottle/Battle Branch, right?
I'd say the bulk of the water on West Street goes into Bottle Branch.
It all eventually gets there.
Right, but what I'm saying is, okay, so it all goes in there. Is there, well, then never mind, that doesn't answer my other question. When you looked at Westminster and Abbey, did you find any other significant possibilities of stormwater flow?
So we talked with DA in the current project they're working on, Westminster and Abbey. Now, they have some funding preclusions there. There's funding for that project. But what we decided was that we were going to share our survey data, share our stormwater calculations that we do on West Street at that intersection, and then they can utilize that information as they see fit for any potential improvements with Westminster and Abbey.
And just to clarify, the Westminster and Abbey funding is for design only. It's not for actual construction.
I guess what I was trying to really get at is, I don't know if this is outside of town, this where water can go now, at the bottom of West. So what you're saying is no water at all from West Street flows out at the bottom at Evans? Stormwater?
No, I think your Evans Road is like the breaking point. Everything from Evans Road, Buckingham Lane flow towards Bottle Branch.
South of Evans.
Yes,
away.
everything, Evans Road flows to town, to Broad Street, all the stormwater.
So essentially, everything included in the scope of this project goes to Bottle Branch. But as you get south of Evans or southwest of Evans and Buckingham, I don't know about that. That may flow to the south.
Okay. You will also, would you also coordinate with State Highway then for what would inevitably happen at the Route 113?
So we will
Junction.
provide all of our calculations, but we are not going to increase flows into Bottle Branch as part of the West Street project. We are going to,
So how, with adding sidewalks possibly, how would you not do that?
by using environmental site design devices, by installing stormwater devices that are going to collect that water and hold it long enough so that it will basically, it won't affect the flow downstream. And Steve, you have a better big picture view of how this project is going to affect other projects in Berlin. If you want to add to that, please do.
Yeah, so I double back to what Josh was just speaking about in the additional impervious coverage. The town stormwater ordinance requires stormwater management attenuation, for increase in impervious area and things like that. Water goes into the facilities, it holds and collects and slowly releases over time, so that the post-development after construction runoff rates, peak discharge, rates are the same as what it was currently. That's conventional standard Maryland state regulation to do for all projects of this sort of nature. Big picture, we do know that there's a concern for Bottle Branch and the crossing 113. It's something we're keeping an eye on. There are some maybe more longer term planning projects that are being considered in the area to help the overall watershed. But as far as this project specifically goes, we would be looking at just what would be required by the stormwater ordinance itself.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Will this project help with, we've had citizens come in and share concerns about standing water. Will this project help with that, or is that another issue?
If it is on West Street, this project will help with that.
Good.
in conjunction also with the planning that's being done for Westminster and Abbey and things like that. It's just, I think it's important to note those two together.
Yeah, we'll be coordinating with EA every step of the way with regards to any stormwater.
No, I'm sorry, forgive me though. Abbey and Westminster, that project for design only, who is spearheading that? Is that EA?
Yes,
Or you?
yes.
That is, so you have DBF and EA at the table.
Okay,
Yeah, Steve on the Masters is filling in for Darrell tonight because he couldn't make it back here in time.
okay.
I'm trying to get him to join EBF, yes.
You are on a recorded
I mean, if you'd like, I could speak a little bit to that design, what it looks like and how it might affect things. But
For Abbey and Westminster?
correct.
Yeah, if you could spend maybe 2 minutes on that, that would
Sure.
be great.
So really quickly, in that development, there's an existing pond that's not functioning very well. There's also an existing paper street that's underutilized, and then on Upshur, there's an existing dry pond that water comes in, collects, and discharges basically straight out. There's no really controlling device there. So we're looking at utilizing those 2 existing facilities and the paper street, the green space, to do environmental site design, submerged gravel wetlands to help both water quality and quantity. The submerged gravel wetlands will basically do nutrient uptake with the stormwater that goes into it. And then the facility, like I just spoke with the West Street water will go in, it'll attenuate, and then a controlling device will slowly release the water into the downstream conveyance piping down Abbey Lane and ultimately into the West Street project.
Thank you.
This is an action item for the council this evening.
Oh, I thought somebody had a motion on the table for this already. And then we stopped.
We'll take yours if you'd like.
Yeah, so moved.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Nichols,
I'll second.
a second by Councilmember Orris to approve motion 2023-48. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect the motion 2023-48 passed unanimously. Thank you. Josh, you gotta stay seated. All right, up next is agenda item 3D, which is motion 2023-55, the approval of RFP 2023-10. Actually, no, Josh, I'm sorry. It's Andrew and then you.
I can sit here, but I
And
know
then
nothing
Josh
about
can
this
sit there.
project.
Okay, sorry. I read ahead, I'm sorry. Okay, for the Heron Park demolition, Town Administrator Mary Boland and DBF Senior Structural Engineer Andrew Welch, I always call you just Andrew, so Andrew Welch is with us this evening, as well as Josh.
I can hold the board this moment.
Exhibit A, right?
So
Thank you, Andrew.
what I brought with me this evening is bid documents that we prepared for demolition of the Heron Park building, formerly Tyson Plant. After pretty extensive condition assessment of the buildings, as well as reconnaissance efforts to photograph, measure, site survey, topographic survey, property line location, we've developed a set of plans for demolition of the building, partial demolition. There aren't a whole lot of plans and details for a demolition project, but considering that it's a partial demolition, then we have developed details for how do you protect and close off portions of the building that are going to remain. That's always an important factor for any demolition. You demolish a building in your downtown streetscape, you got to be sure that the building that's to remain is well protected and watertight. So we have developed details for that. We also have a specification book for bidding purposes. One of the most important items in there will be the bid form. We've tailored the bid form with a base bid and then add alternates. The purpose of that will give the town the opportunity to assign and select the base bid and possibly add alternates to maximize their usage of the grant. The areas selected for demolition if you can see, you see area 1 and 2, which is the middle core of that building. They're the lowest roof structure. Area 1 is actually already partially collapsed, so there's no question about that. Area 2, right next to it, is also based on condition and some of the structural integrity of what remains there. We've slated that for demolition as well. And that is the base bid, along with removal of debris and cleaning up the site towards the west side of the project. And then Area 3 would be an ad alternate. There are portions of that building which are also in the state of not only poor condition, but partial collapse. The remainder of the buildings, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, are in fair condition, fairly robust. And in the bid form, there are some ad alternates in there for cleaning up those portions of the building, especially Area 8. There's a lot of wet insulation and collapsed ceilings, but the structure there is, I would say, in fair to good condition.
We have questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
Yeah, that's what, okay. So yeah, you ranked the buildings from 1 to 8, 1 being the poorest, 2 to 3. I'm just questioning with how you did the bid, just so I understand it. When you did the base bid, you took that as 1 and 2 being the worst areas, and then of course general site preparation and securing the building. And I'm just curious the rationale for, do you believe that that will use a majority of the demo grant? Or is it the third just kind of separating it out as those two absolutely must go? And the third you said was a partial collapse. So I'm kind of curious, so should we just do 1, 2, 3 all at one time? I would hear your rationale on that.
Yeah, I think we should do 1, 2, 3. However, if the grant monies are not there, we may want to negotiate with the low bidder as to partial demolition or even reconstruction or reinforcement of Area 3. There are some portions there that we have a structural concern. So in my opinion, 1, 2, and 3 should go, but if the grant's not there, then we'll negotiate with the low bidder.
Okay. That's what I was kind of just a little bit confused on. If 3 is a part, if we're concerned about safety, do we wrap it all up? But that's what I guess I'm getting at is it your belief that the funding won't be there to take 1, 2, and 3 down based on the marketplace?
We've estimated construction or destruction costs.
Yeah.
And they're going to range anywhere from $10 to $15 per square foot. And in my opinion, I've talked to some demolition contractors, and those are the numbers they've given me. I think the monies are there for 1, 2, and 3, but depending on the bidding environment and how many people are going to be interested in the project, that's a really tough call to make.
Sure.
The other important point to note, Andrew, is that you've structured this also in a way that if 1, 2, and 3 come in and have unused grant money, that there's a way that we can move forward with making the remaining part of the buildings more capable of being repurposed commercially.
Correct, and we'll start off with just cleaning.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's important for everybody to understand that is, we're trying to play, Andrew's done a great job of structuring it in a way that if we can, if the money doesn't go very far, we've got an option for that. If the money can demo the whole thing, we've got an option for that too. If we come in with 1, 2, and 3 being able to be removed, and we still have some remaining funds, we have a way to be able to utilize those as well.
Absolutely. Please don't think I'm not being critical. I'm just kind of trying to learn about it. It's clear from touring it 1 and 2 are trash. They have to go. And that's what I was just trying to get to. And I thought that we were leaning towards 3 being in that realm too. And remember to have the structure, the expert, I'm fine with that. I just was curious as to how you were,
Yeah, I appreciate your questions and comments. That's good.
Andrew, I'm cheering over here because the idea, the concept that you're saying, here's option A, here's option B, and in my back pocket, we've got an option C and D. That was what I I don't want to be presumptuous here, but that is initially what I was hoping to see in here. And to see that you have that, and the grant funding that we have doesn't necessarily look preposterously out of the ballpark makes, and preposterously is a word in case you're looking at me like that, fellas. It's definitely, that's a good
Sip
thing.
on my water.
Thank you.
So
Grab
thank
a
you.
water, you want
Some
some?
of my water. That's fine.
Andrew, can you speak a little bit to the timeline on this, assuming that it's approved this evening? I mean, we'll set dates and move forward with advertising and getting the word out tomorrow. But what kind of timeline would you allow on bid response, pre-bid meeting? What are we looking at?
I would say from tonight, if this project is approved, then I would say 4 weeks for the bidding process to go forth. I think we've allowed 90 consecutive calendar days for the project. As far as the bidding period, I don't think contractors are going to take very long to bid, but, you know, at least 2 weeks, and I would say 3, because there'll be questions that come in, and, you know, RFIs to respond to. So potentially 8 weeks before you even get a bid approved and awarded, and then 90 days after that.
Okay.
Which puts us roughly,
8 weeks is 2 months, 90 days is 3 months, so 2 plus 3.
Spring, early spring.
April,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable.
with beginning the demolition.
No, that includes the 90-day contract time.
Right.
To complete the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking everything can be wrapped up by April?
That's the
Okay,
aim.
so
So we'll say May at the latest.
April, May.
just
right.
understand.
That's still within
that's
the parameters of the grant. Well, no, I mean, it's very important.
No,
I know
we
it's
get it,
projections,
for sure.
but,
But there are a few things that may be outside of our control, weather and all those things, so we gotta remember that.
So with that, I was just curious, I pulled up the grant language, and it says completion date 6/1/2024 to 6/30/24. Final report due 45 days after project completion date. So I guess we do have a little wiggle, but not a lot.
Not a
Yeah,
lot.
we're
There'll
not-
be a lot of
we're
wiggle,
not-
it sounds like we might be within that ballpark. Can we start on the motion?
I have a question.
Let's get it going, come on.
So I just want to make sure, I want to understand this part here. So this is structured so that the X amount of the demo grant that is remaining is hopeful to cover 1, 2, and 3. But it's, the package is structured so that 1 and 2 can definitely be addressed first.
Right, that's base bid.
That's the base bid. Okay, so the base is 1 and 2, 3 is an add-on pending funding.
Correct.
Okay, so if we can do all 3 under the X amount of whatever the grant's going to be, anything left over, surplus, we can use for cleaning of 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8.
We have 2 other add alternates beyond demolition of area 3. Remove debris from building interiors 4 through 8.
Okay.
You know, there is just debris really on the floor. And then in area 8, remove interior suspended ceilings, bad insulation, debris, and loose paint.
it's, I know we've talked about it, the debris to the west, but this does include, outside of just 1 and 2 being high priorities, the debris that is around the building on the west side, that's correct.
That's under base bid.
Right. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware, because we talked about 1 and 2, and you touched on the west side, but outside of that, it's not been discussed.
Yeah, if it's a fixed foundation, an old foundation, we're not going to touch that.
Right.
But if it's junk concrete laying around, old, HVAC units on the ground,
Broken fence.
even we called up for some tree removal back there, that you've got some, noxious trees that are, nuisance trees that are growing up.
So now we will take, but
So if there are no more questions, I would like to accept this proposal.
Second.
So we have a motion by Vice President Burrell, a second by Councilmember Nichols to approve motion 2023-55. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Andrew.
Good job.
Thanks for your help, Josh.
Josh.
Waiting for that.
And that'll be published, the bid will be published when, tomorrow?
That's what we're waiting for.
Okay. But definitely by the end of the week?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It's,
Andrew,
hey, I
thank
want,
you. Thank you, Kendall.
I don't want to give anyone back. Thank you. Josh, you're still invited to
Hi, guys,
stay at the
Josh.
table.
Yeah, I'm still
Do
sitting.
you want a nameplate? All right, up next is motion, agenda item 3E, motion 2023-56, the approval of award of RFP 2023-09, the Broad Street Pump Station Replacement. Water Resources Director Jamie Latcham and DBF Associate Senior Municipal Engineer Josh Taylor are going to run point.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We opened bids 2 weeks ago, November 3rd, I think it was. We received 4 bids for Broad Street Pump Station replacement. DBF reviewed all the bid documents, made sure everything was there, and we would like to award the bid to Hopkins Construction for $978,030. They are under budget. We did budget $1 million, so with that being said, we would like to award them the bid for the pump station replacement.
Thank you. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. If there are any from the group, I'm ready to move on to that boy.
Some urgency there.
There's a little urgency on Broad Street.
Okay, go
Do
ahead.
you have any questions? Then I happily and excitingly motion to approve the approval of the award for RFP 2023-09 Broad Street Pump Station. The motion itself is 2023-56.
I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Morris,
Second.
a second by Councilmember Green. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-56 passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I know it's on the, it will probably be April, May before we see much work going on due to the, well, not really the weather, but the equipment. Some of the equipment's still out. We could be out another 6 months probably for that, 5 to 6 months. So just giving you a heads up. So I know it's awarded tonight, but it will probably be April, May before we start really breaking ground.
We will continue with the award process with the contractors to lock them in and keep pressure on the pump manufacturer and the generator manufacturer to get this done as soon as possible, but they are both long lead items, so
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
thank you.
So are you gonna have like I'm not being funny, Billy. Are you gonna have like some kind of something, because this thing is old, like 1930 something?
We'll do like what we did with the water well.
Well, not just that, but before you tear it, before you dig it up and throw it away, are you gonna do something? Because I mean, it's old.
Farewell party.
It's like a relic, no joke,
Got
yeah.
little white
There's a
box.
certain amount of mitigation that's gonna happen as they start tearing it down.
Something.
I'll bring you all a piece of board from it or something.
No, I don't want anything from it. I was just wondering if you were gonna do like a christening,
I get a kick out of that structure above it. I'm hoping they would keep that little white house.
You would not believe how many people that don't have a clue that it is a lift station.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
30 years, I thought it was someone's shed.
Yeah. Did we use this ball back?
That might be the last thing you do, safely let people see what it really was before it's gone, because, I mean, I know, I'm not saying, right, that's the optimal term right there, right, safely, but that thing it's a scary little trap.
And just think, we go in there 7 days a week,
And holidays.
365 days a year.
I mean,
66 on leap years.
I've been in there. I don't really desire anything from there. But
Really run into your house.
dumpster next to the yard.
All right, up next, agenda item 3F, motion 2023-57, amendments to the employee handbook, sections 3 and appendices. Human Resources Director Kelsey Jensen and Town Administrator Mary Bowler are on point.
It's 30-some pages of amendments. So
Can you go ahead and read that if you don't mind?
Yes, I have 3 pages of notes here on what I changed, but I don't know how detailed you guys really want me to get. So I mean, most of the stuff in here, we either ran by Dave Gaskell or we a lot of it, because of the nature of it, I reached out to Legit Attorney. He also does their HR for Legit, Matt Peter, so he checked a lot of these sections for us, and we ran a lot by him, so he was a good sounding board for some of these things. I also reached out to Ocean City and Worcester County, just to get a feel for how they handled certain things, so I feel like we've got a pretty good change going here for Section 3, but I don't know if anyone has any specific questions.
Do we have any
Well, I
questions?
was just interested, I thought the 3.10 about drug, alcohol, and tobacco, it's a substance policy, so that's customary, I mean, this is all being changed soon because of changes in laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because now, while marijuana is
Yeah.
still a drug, it's now, we're just trying to categorize things a little bit
Yeah.
differently. So we've now changed everything to say substances, and we actually, in section, I'm trying to think which one had to do with substance abuse and stuff, but we had, we did change a lot of the terminology and testing and stuff. I mean, those things are still tested for depending on your position and stuff. So, I don't know, we just tried to simplify it by saying substance testing and substance abuse and substance misuse and, stuff like that. So instead of saying drug and alcohol, most of those places in the handbook were changed to substance.
That's not really a question, it was just a comment. And I can't find it now. There was one area that it said, the town of Berlin should or shall. And I didn't know if that was a,
Did it have to do with I think you were trying to leave the language a little ambiguous when we were
Was it to do with
working on
evaluations?
performance reviews.
it may have been, and I was just kind of curious is, well, one is kind of,
I
to
know.
me, shall is more like yeah, and should is like,
Right, well,
We wanted to leave it a little more ambiguous at this time because we do not have a process in place. But we still want to encourage our department heads and supervisors to give regular feedback to their employees. So we hesitated to make it a requirement at this point because we're frankly not prepared to
there's not
implement
policy.
it. Right.
Okay.
And to that point, we've also, you'll probably remember back with the PayPoint HR stuff,
Yeah.
which is another one of our discussion items later this evening. But we had asked their team to assist with, in conjunction with the stepping grades, an evaluation metric. So it is something we still want to work toward, but at this time, we don't have it.
Yes, that clears it up, because I remember that, thank you.
yeah, I was saying, I'm struggling to find it at this moment, but I do recall what you're talking about. And, yeah, and doing that, a lot of the changes, like I said, were things that were kind of more keeping up with laws. We also had in here,
I like the social media section.
Yeah, there was no social media section. I pulled it from the federal employee handbook and just kind of changed it to meet some of our terminology and stuff. And then we also had in here, like, if you get a speeding ticket in a town vehicle, you're paying for that. Whereas that was kind of happening, it was happening before, it just wasn't written anywhere. So just stuff like that, we wanted to make it more concrete and have a policy for it. So, and like I said, we did add some appendices. We're still working on a couple, but those are in here. One is regarding PPE for protective boots and eyewear. When I say eyewear, obviously your everyday safety glasses, those we have plenty of, but prescription eyewear. So people that have to wear the safety glasses that also have a prescription, we pay for that because we don't want them to use their one pair of glasses a year on work glasses. So, but we did meet as a group, like the department heads and stuff, and go through these appendices. There's also one about reasonable suspicion. If we were to send someone for testing, this is kind of a new form. The handbook referred to a form, but we didn't actually have any forms. So, but some of this language was from the handbook. There's also a schedule now for licensing and certification as far as additional compensation. These are things we're doing already, it's just not written anywhere, so these things just needed to be more formalized. And we do understand that if we implement a step and grade system, then these figures will likely turn into steps instead. We'll have to figure that stuff out as we go, but
Sorry to cut you off, Kelsey, have department heads seen, I assume I shouldn't, have department heads reviewed the reasonable suspicion form and
Yeah.
supervisors?
we met as a group.
We met as a
But
group.
there's also a handbook review committee that does have,
Yeah, that one we haven't, we did that early on. This time around, it was kind of more just Mary and I, but once we get to a point where we have something in place again, we're gonna get back to that. We were talking about setting aside separate meetings, maybe once a month, to do a section as a group, just so that we can keep up with it a little bit more, but, yeah, involving other departments in that.
Page 137
Okay.
is kind of in the new. It starts with improper or offensive attire or inappropriate personal appearance. How is that determined?
I'm not following where you are.
I see it, I'm just trying to
Oh, I
like
see. Oh.
read around it to figure out exactly. I think we have a
Right here.
separate area where it talks about,
Okay.
I think that it was in an earlier section too, where we addressed this, where it's, I think section 1 talks about employee responsibilities, and one of those things was also talking about improper or offensive attire, but as far as who would determine that, I mean, I think that the first person that would probably see them is their department head, so if they felt like something was improper, I guess they would then bring it to Mary or myself, but we really...
It can be difficult to define some terms, but you have to put a point in to start somewhere. So at the end of the day, it will end up being probably a judgment call. That can be appealed, obviously, but...
But whose judgment?
Well, that's what I was just saying. I think it would be at first the department head, and then I guess it would come to Mary or myself if it was something that was, you know, I don't know. We thankfully we don't really have much of that, but that's any of these things in this handbook are going to be the judgment.
Most departments have to wear certain things.
Safety and uniforms.
You know, people will sue you for anything. And I think it would be in our best interest to state that just as determined by.
Okay, more specific?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. I just, a lot of these things are kind of, you know, your first line of reporting there would be your
Most
department.
departments do.
But most of the departments,
Yeah,
field
like the police department, they got
departments,
uniforms.
or at least shirts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can specify if you'd like me to.
But I mean, like, I don't know
But-
what section you're in.
but does-
My blue shirt
Personal
would be offensive.
occurrence.
My blue
Hold on,
shirt might
hold
be
on.
offensive to someone.
Well, obviously,
but it's not like that,
we're talking
no.
inappropriate language, we're talking
Right.
graphics, we're talking, you know,
This is
things of that
Well,
nature.
that's,
Yeah,
that's
but
kind of what I
the-
was getting at, like, my earring and my nose is offensive to someone.
Yeah, but a lot of those things are protected.
Yeah.
The thing is that what we're talking about is like the one-off, right? Like if something is blatantly crossing a line of maybe some of the protected classes, maybe there's a shirt or a
Right.
graphic or something that.
Some of the t-shirts you could find any time you walk down the boardwalk,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we have had to have discussions with people about their attire. I mean, it's not new, thankfully it doesn't happen very often, but we have had to have those conversations, and they have been shirts that aren't appropriate for work. But again, I guess we could, like I said, we can specify if that's what you guys feel.
But I think that it may be helpful to just, rather than citing this differently within this section, it may be helpful to refer to how things are cited in the handbook as a whole, that the supervisor, department head, town administrator, and so on and so
And
forth.
I do think it does in the
Right.
earlier sections.
Right.
That's the hard part about looking at specific sections, because I think some of these parts do get referred to and other, and even changing stuff in 3, we've now
We
gone back
realized
to
that-
1 and 2. And I mean, so our plan going forward, the next step, we're just gonna bring the full book. We're trying to get that out in one of these meetings. And when I say the full book, it's gonna be, you guys have, it'll be with all prior approvals, and then just some small changes, but I'll try to just summarize those in like a staff report or something. And then we are still, working on one other appendix that might not be ready, in time for that. It's like more of an on-call policy type of thing. And then, other than that, there was one other thing I noticed that as I was going through here, we have a sheet that people sign off on equipment they've been issued, laptops, cell phones, and that should probably be added in here as an appendix because it's referred to in the handbook, so I'll probably add that in as well. But so at the end of the day, the whole thing will come back, but it will not be as marked up because it's just smaller changes we've made as we moved on to other sections, so. But I'll
If
summarize
we
this
find
for
that a
you.
section number has changed and we need to change another reference, we're not gonna
Right.
We don't even.
burden you
Yeah,
with that.
and I'm not, very minor things I'm not going to even, I'll just accept and move on, but like, but
I think
things that are-
you all have done a great job.
Yeah, that's quite an effort.
I wanted to say that as well, it's quite an effort to do something like that, especially like HR related,
With the Department of One.
with the
So,
Department of.
all right, we will take a motion if there is one by the group to approve.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Ors,
Second.
second by Vice President Burrell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record reflect that motion 2023-57, amendments to the handbook and sections 3 and appendices passes unanimously. Thank you.
Yes, truly, thank you. That's
And trust me, I can't wait to not bring it in front of you guys again either.
Kelsey and I are tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
Up next is that agenda item
It's a Christmas present.
3G, with a go. Resolution 2023-04, fee schedule revision. Town Administrator Mary Boland's going to run through.
As you will note in the tables that were attached behind this, there are a number of fees that the town charges for a variety of things, licenses, permits, any number of things. Many of these fees have not been looked at in years. The one area that we were able to nail a date down was for things associated with the planning department, that was 2011. So items that we were not able to say, this was last reviewed and this year, we just threw a date on there of 2013. There's a website that's actually noted on the table in a couple of places where you can go to and calculate the rate of inflation for a given period of time. So that's what we used to come up with the figures that we've used as the proposed increases. What's important to note with these fees and costs, they are only paid by the person who is using the service or applying for the permit. These are fees and costs that are not passed along to the general taxpayer. Other than that, unless you have any questions.
The only thing I would add is that I'm sure everybody up here recalls, we had discussed this during the budget process. And this is also part of that, trying to make it
Correct.
current and up to speed before we move into the FY25 budgeting process.
Correct.
So Mary, no, this is great, and thank you all for working on this. I know it's a tough job. The impact fees section, it says, there's a little asterisk by it. They were established in 2005. Impact fees are set by the code and increase is recommended. So can you elaborate a little bit more on the increase recommended part and why there's no change?
There are several things, not many, not as many as, I'm glad to see there were too many, that are actually established by the town code. Establishing actual dollar figures in the code or charter is a mistake and should not have been done. What I would like to do, and will at some point bring back an ordinance or ordinances, taking those sections of the code and eliminating the actual named dollar amount and changing it to be reviewed by the mayor and council from time to time. And that's what this resolution would do.
I think I already drafted that.
Yes, you did.
We
I
we had to
discovered a
wait.
few other areas,
Okay.
but yes.
Because we had to wait until the fees were changed.
Right,
to
right.
Change the ordinance.
So the impact fees are one. I want to say the cost of a additional trash can was one.
Yes.
Impact fees have not been touched since, I think you just said it, 2000, when they were established in 2005. Obviously, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So what we will look at is the same kind of inflationary increase that we are doing on everything else here and propose that.
And I think also, I mentioned it to you as we were having our fire company, one of our work sessions with them. And at the time, everybody was working on the fee things. So when you go back to the drawing table of impact fees, if you could look at the possibility of some sort of fire service fee that they are asking about. Not they, that has been discussed. and see how that's implemented, how other municipalities handle that? I mean, I don't know, that's why I'm asking, you know, if that can be.
That will be,
Be
yes,
kind of
that will be
factored
part
in
of
there.
it.
And then I did see, the regular review should be conducted at least every 5 years or more frequently as warranted. I just wanted to throw out, if that's like it's in the recommendation, it's probably part of the ordinance, but maybe can we do that, a review maybe every 3 years? Like, should we
Sure.
put a finite?
5 years
time on
is
that?
kind of a
Okay.
minimum, but you can certainly do
And
it
then-
more often.
And should that be in the form of like a staff policy, or can that be just for this particular item? Like, how would you recommend that we do that? Just with
I'm
that
not
one?
sure what you're
So,
asking.
okay, so tonight, whoever makes the motion or whatever, they would just say, or a resolution to approve with the revision every 3 years. And that would be fine?
I would say with a review every 3 years, just because you may reach a
Okay.
point where for whatever reason, be it the economic situation or whatever, you don't want to actually revise it.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Question about the, it's not going to be a surprise because I talked about this before, I think, but the long-term rental license fee. So, and I totally get using that factor of 2013. But, well, so Dave, I actually have a question for Dave Engelhardt. How many long-term rental licenses do we have? Would you say, and I'm putting you on the spot, but.
You are. And
I apologize.
I don't have that number in my head, but if I had to guess,
I'll take that.
because it would take in apartments and some people with private homes. 50?
Okay, appreciate that, thank you. So, I think it's way too low, I have to say, guys, and I know that, I think we should be consistent, so I'm wavering here on this, because I do think it's nice to be able to refer to that percentage increase that you worked out. I just feel like it's so low, and, you know, but just Ocean City, we have a rental property there, it's 116. If you look at some other towns, Cambridge 58, Easton 25, Fruitland 50, Millsboro 30, Selbyville 125. So I just really, do I have a number in mind? I would like the group to consider $50. I mean, I think it's nominal. I just feel, and I understand the susceptible to criticism probably as far as, you know, not being consistent with the percentage increase, but that when that rental license fee was established, it was pre-Dave Engelhardt, I believe.
Oh, it was way back.
Yeah, so we don't really know when that was. I just feel like.
I'll put it this way, when I started 30 years ago and was doing all the business licenses, it was $5.
So, would we consider this group?
I don't know if that was a good thing to admit or not.
Yeah. I just feel, you know, I don't think that our rental license holders, I think they're getting a bargain, I will say.
I said 50 is
Cost
low.
of increases, cost of expenses have gone up for everybody, and including town government. I mean, I was just throwing 50 out as a fair, kind of a carrot to throw out, open to, initially back when we had that discussion on short-term rentals in the summer, I thought 100, that's a, you know, a significant increase, but I do know what rents go for, you know, now, and we get quite a, you know, there's a lot of successful rental properties in town. If we're looking at 50-ish, I just feel like there's an opportunity there to recoup some costs that our planning
Now, mind you,
department.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but you're talking annual, right? So even $50 over the course over a year, you can't even go to McDonald's for that kind of price. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to outprice and overprice anybody, but $50, and I love where you're going with this, I think, and I'm not gonna say, you know, we're gonna go all the way up, but $50 is extremely minimal, you know?
Dave, your opinion, welcome it.
We have a lot of apartment units in town, so it's going to be a shock to the owners, but I think it's warranted. $10, that probably goes back, I don't know, 30 years, 25 years? Yeah.
At least 20.
It's a static thing, and the bulk of them, you know, when I was speaking off the top of my head, I'm thinking about the one unit owners, but if you think of the multiple units, we have them in the hundreds. If you take in Oceans East and you take in,
But if you take in his rent, he can, I think they, and I'm not being, let's call a spade a spade.
I agree.
He can afford it.
I agree. I think $50 is more than fair.
Yes.
We've been saying this for, we looked at that fee back when Laura Allen was town administrator, so it goes back a few years. And we thought it needed to be changed, we just hadn't changed it. And
So these fees that are planned to go into effect at the first of the calendar year.
Yes. And that's to give us time to get it sorted out, forms updated and that kind of thing.
So anybody that has a rental license, that began when they started renting the unit. So say September 1st, that $50 fee would be collected at expiration of the annual fee.
I would say so. I did not specify,
Yeah.
but that's a good point. Those things that are already being billed on an annual basis would not go into effect until July 1.
So it's being an impossible, really, budget projector probably for us due to those different dates. But,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to suggest, I'm just trying to be fair.
I would say, however, on that note, that if someone were to buy a house tomorrow and come in for a rental license or January 1st, the new rate would go in that.
I see, right.
It would be upon renewal.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, one thing I have not seen in here, you've brought this up many times, a parking fee. If folks cannot accommodate the parking that's needed on site, you brought that up multiple times. The code cites that as well as an option. Is there any thought on putting that in this fee schedule as well?
possibly. I mean, that would be up to your.
How does the body feel about that? So Dave,
Again, I don't have that code section in front of me, but it called out in the town center district, like downtown here, that the mayor and council, I'm trying to think of the exact language, may ask for, you know, when there's new development, someone came in and they're changing the use of one of the buildings, which we have going on right now. And if it was, the parking is not available on site. You know, most of the buildings are, and they have no parking of their own. So the parking for their business, for the restaurant, or even for the merchandise stores, is on the street and nothing behind it. So it all depends on the parking lots or the street, that you may ask for a fee to go into a fund that's to be devoted for parking. In other words, the development of more lots or a parking garage. That was the idea, I believe, of that ordinance. It doesn't specify a dollar amount, but it says that the mayor and council may collect those fees or impose those fees. You know, Arnold always, whenever something new is going in, since I've been here and it's downtown, he always says to me, where are we gonna park them? Where are we gonna put them? Because that's the headache for Arnold's department, and for traffic and safety. So I guess that language is in the code to give you the opportunity to move in that direction. So we could set a fee, but you really need to have that policy, I think, in place that either, I think the fairest thing, and I'll probably get shot on the street tomorrow, would be that every merchant pays into that fund.
Yes.
Because all we ever hear is, Berlin's great, I love the shops, I like to go there to get lunch or dinner, but there's no parking. That's the first thing I hear. And there really is no solution unless we had more land somewhere close to downtown, or we devoted part of Heron Park and had a shuttle system. I don't know that we're big enough and can afford a shuttle system in the peak season, but you know, satellite parking area, you know, and shuttle people downtown is one solution. You could pay for that with a fee, but I think in general you ought to have maybe part of the business license of the affected go into that fund. We need to create that fund if we're gonna move on parking.
Do you have an idea of just what you think would be an appropriate amount?
I think you would have to take it mathematically. You would take a cost to develop
Yeah.
an acre and how many parking spaces you can
Right.
get and divide it out.
Right, right.
So,
And in the past, we've looked at different pieces, in town. We made, like one right across from the parking lot here, that the Burbidge Funeral Home owns, that grass lot. That's been talked about, but never acted on. And we probably could get, I don't know, we calculated it, straight-in parking, angle parking, we got more spots out of that. We did all that several years ago, 5 years ago. And that cost was high to build the parking lot there. If memory serves, it was $300,000 or $350,000 for 22 parking spaces. So it's not cheap.
yeah, I think some of that we would have to I think when developing the formula, each site will be specific, but I think we should just take how many cars can you fit on a traditional acre? What's the cost to develop that, divide it out per space? That would give us a sense of what that cost per space.
Or another way to do it, if you want to concentrate on the B1, the town center district, that's all right smack down over here, and down some of the side streets. But impact fees in the B1 could be, instead of $2 a square foot, could be $2.50 a square foot. So if it's something happening in...
I like that idea.
And then that portion, I don't know, Natalie would have to chime in on this, that 50-cent portion, I'm just throwing out stupid numbers, that 50 cents could go to that parking fund. Or all impact fees could contribute to the parking fund, because that's been a thorn in our side. When we're busy, people don't like it because of the parking, right? And when we have events,
I think that we don't need to settle on 50 cents, but I think some additional value added on to the commercial impact fee.
or raise the impact fee in general, and say you're going to devote a portion of it to parking.
Well, and I think that's wise to do in the commercial sense, and do away with the idea of a parking fee being assessed, because that will not be an equal way to assess the parking burden, right? Because there's an existing parking issue currently.
Yeah, and every new thing that gets built, whether it's a single-family home or a commercial or an apartment house, it's got an impact on the town for sure. And that they're not all headed downtown every day, but when we have events, the town is busier because there's more people in it, with each development. So if you think the impact fee is enough to devote some of it to parking, fine. If not, increase it.
I don't know that you could legally do that.
What's that?
Devote impact fees to parking at commercial businesses. I mean, if I'm paying $3,000 in a development, a residential development, impact fees are supposed to be spent on items that have a direct effect on that new growth. I mean, if I'm a resident, why am I paying for tourists to park? That's probably not legal as well.
What about the commercial?
So commercial.
Yeah,
That would be
the downtown district or whatever.
I just.
Yeah, I wasn't looking really.
I wasn't really looking at the residential, but it really, our impact fee section of the code is pretty general, and I think that was intentional when it was written. It talks about town utilities and town services and financing them. So it is allowed. I was always pushing it, spend the impact fees, and we hadn't been. We'd just been stockpiling them. Jeff Fleetwood was talking about fixing roads, and I said, spend some impact fee money. That's on the way to that development, that road that needs to be fixed, and we continued to do that. And I think in a responsible manner, we still have a lot of impact fee money in reserve, if you want to call it that. I'm probably speaking out of turn for Natalie here, but, and we've managed to spend it pretty much on improvements in roads and utilities as the code calls for it. But it doesn't say that, I'll disagree a little bit with Mr. Gaskell, it doesn't say that it's directly associated with that development that we have to spend the impact.
It has to be related to it. And I just can't, I can't connect the dots between a residential development and parking on Main Street for Main Street businesses.
But I would agree with either a separate fee for the commercial.
Yeah, me too.
But that's the easiest, just establish a parking fee for commercial impacts. And we can look at that. I don't know what it would be. We'd have to look at the cost of land acquisition and a parking lot.
I think based off of what I've heard so far, just in the comments from the group, are that a movement on the commercial impact fee would be more palatable, right?
Yeah.
And assign those additional funds. And David Gaskell, are you in agreement that commercial only would be an applicable use?
It could be for the town center district.
For town center.
Town center district?
I wouldn't call it an impact fee either, because that implies that only new businesses
Yeah,
be
that's
pledged.
true.
But not really, because if you change an existing use, don't you still have the impact?
Well,
Are you still an assessed an impact fee if you change?
But what Dave is talking about is adding an amount to the business license.
Okay.
We're talking about a recurring expense of folks that don't have parking. You wouldn't do that one time if you changed a hardware store to a restaurant and that's it. You would go ahead and say, you don't have parking, you are in this area and you are utilizing this, this, and this. So we're gonna go ahead and give you a fee for the parking itself.
Okay, so ruling out the change to the commercial impact fee itself to handle that and more of a
See,
fee.
that's not-
Other than that, it does need to be increased.
Well, right, yeah.
That's not how my
Right,
brain
that's totally separate,
processes
right.
that. My brain processed that, and I don't want to keep us here for a long time, but my brain processed that as, if you're attaching this to the annual fee, and say we did, the premise is to establish a new parking, what have you. Most of the folks that are in this downtown district, their patrons are going to utilize this new location for parking. So if everybody had this increase of $50 or whatever it is, your folks who are coming to your establishment, they're going to be parking in this new spot because it's you know what I'm saying? It's additional parking. So my thought was, if you're creating more for all of them to utilize, then shouldn't everybody pay for it?
Not me.
No, I'm not saying you. If you're a downtown business, again, I'm thinking.
That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying.
And the thing of it is, if you actually are solving a problem, people are gonna pay.
That's what I'm
They're
saying.
gonna be happy to pay.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're creating this new parking, what have you, and
For
it
$50
costs a lot,
yeah.
and everybody's,
Part of what we will be doing is looking at the impact fee ordinance. So that some of these are questions that can be better answered or we can delve into before we get to that point. But one other thing that I'm going to throw out there is the consideration of whether or not to impose an additional parking fee on the landlords of the apartments in the downtown commercial district. They absolutely do. And that's just food for thought for later conversation.
I think we need a later conversation.
Yes,
There's too much
absolutely.
information.
Yes.
We need to maybe locate some possible locations and then fairly assess what that might cost. And then building the parking lot, paving the parking lot, stormwater. These are all considerations and they're all things that add dollars to
I
the
mean, that
value
could be
of
a
a
part
parking
of
lot.
the promo for the town or their business.
Well, but
Parking.
I think it needs a study, but we need to move forward. You know, we run up to the issue whenever a new business was being proposed in town. The planning commission asks the question, the way our code says, if it can't be provided adequate parking can't be provided in the B1 district, parking within 300 feet will suffice. So a lot of them, 300 feet is to the post office parking lot. A lot of them, 300 feet is to the bank parking lot. And then some over by Worcester Family Youth, you know, the West Street, you know, and Baker Street area.
Municipal.
And there, if you counted all the parking that's required in town, it's 5 times the amount of spaces that those lots hold. So we need all of that information so we can explain it to the public. And like I said, I don't want to get shot on the street by the merchants.
I thought Ivy was going to.
I think Ivy too.
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Yeah, so I've been involved in downtown parking for a very, very long time. And the idea of it's historically called a parking impact fee. And it's usually collected with the idea that the money is being collected to pay for something in advance.
Right.
Or to save for something that, just like anything, when you're a kid, you save money because you want to buy that new bike. And I'm wondering if the fact that the town hasn't imposed this fee is because there was nothing that the fee was actually going to go to. There's one thing to collect the parking impact fee, but if I'm a business downtown, I would say, well, what are you doing with my money? Are you using it to work a partnership maybe with the Berlin Fire Company, or work a partnership with some of the churches downtown where, hey, you're using your lot on Sundays, maybe we can have a partnership where we take some of that those impact fees and use it to stripe the parking lot or plow their parking lot for them. I think that there's an opportunity for partnerships out there. And we also have to remember that there's 5 separate owners of the lot behind most of the businesses. The town doesn't own those lots behind the businesses.
We don't own that.
She's primarily talking about the Commerce Street, correct? The lot off Commerce Street.
Right.
Yeah. The one typically they call it, Taylor Bank owns it. They only own some of it.
Right. There's a convergence where, and there's always a pothole in the middle of where all 5 owners.
Yeah, it's like a
And there's
market.
always, and I talked to Jimmy about this before, you know, whose turn is it to fix the pothole in the middle of the parking
It is.
lot in the back?
The property line goes right through.
Right.
I think it's obvious that staff has a good bit more work to do on this. I mean, I think we knew that going in, but it's entirely possible that we may need to bring professionals in to assist with this. This is calculations and things that we don't necessarily have the skill set to do in-house nor the time.
And we should also establish in this process.
To be a special projects.
Well, no, you need
It
somebody
would
that
be
can do
beyond
financial
that. It really
calculations.
would. I mean, there are companies that do parking studies. That's what they do.
Well, I don't think I think that we also
I was
with
going to
this.
say, we've done more than
We
one.
just had, we had one.
Yeah, I think you need to go ahead and dust off the ones we've done.
Nobody seems to love the findings.
No.
But with this too, if it's gonna span, are you saying to bring in somebody to professionally evaluate this?
No,
Or just the
no, the
parking?
parking issue
Okay.
itself.
I have a question, not related to parking.
Okay.
Can we move that?
I think we beat that there.
Okay.
So,
I do want clarification on the long-term rental fee though, before.
Yeah, I one thing I just wanted to see, community and economic development, Ivy, do you see any concerns with raising that fee, just from your?
The long-term,
Yeah,
no, when I just glanced at it and saw it was $15, $50 makes sense to me.
yes, I think that's, how do you feel about the number? So, because we could pass these fees with that amendment, right?
oh yeah, we can pass the motion
Right.
with
The change.
this change, yeah.
I'm sorry.
A resolution.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I have a question about commercial trash.
Yep, I was headed there too, go ahead.
I have a question concerning commercial trash. And the red is being proposed.
Correct.
And then we're talking about 4-yard dumpster and a 6-yard dumpster. How many of those do we currently have in town?
We have we have 5 4-yard dumpsters and 3 6-yard dumpsters. I'm sorry, 4. We have 5 and 4, we have 9. We have
And
5 4 yards and 4 6 yards.
And this proposed fee will be billed quarterly?
Correct.
Now, tell me about the, it's a note down here, and it reads currently, the commercial is typically collected one time per week. Price is accordingly. I don't understand that.
Meaning the price that's indicated on the table is based on one time a week.
A quarterly fee is to pick it up once per week.
Right.
Okay. Going forward, how about the commercial that use the little arm thing, the brown, the green thing? Is there a fee associated with those pickups?
Yes. The fee is $95 if you have 1 can. If you have 2 cans, for whatever reason, there was knocks $5 off, but they're $90. So if you have 2 cans, it's $180. If you have 3 cans, it's $360. Or it's not $360. $270.
And that's billed
Quarterly.
billed quarterly?
All our billing is quarterly.
For commercial?
Yes.
Per commercial.
Yes.
How many of those?
We do roughly, I want to say 90-some commercial cans per week, along with the 4 and 6 yard dumpsters. And we are undercharging, I can say.
Yes, significantly.
And what's happening is the residents are picking up that shortfall.
Right.
Subsidizing.
Subsidizing the volume that's not being charged.
So what would it take to adjust those fees?
$125 each per quarter.
$125 each container
Per quarter. No discount from all.
per quarter?
Correct.
No
Correct.
discount?
For multiples.
Right. If you have 1 can, it's 125, 2 cans, it's 250, and so on. And this is probably not the last time that we're going to talk to you about commercial trash.
No.
We are interested in getting out of the business of providing commercial trash collection.
Because we currently, explain why. We have a truck, we have
Yeah.
personnel, we
Right.
have all
Yes.
the operational costs of
Yes.
this.
We are significantly, as has already been said, we are significantly undercharging what a private hauler would charge. The town should not be in the business of competing with private businesses. So we would need to either raise our rate to what the private haulers are charging, or stop collecting commercial trash and let them go into a contract with a private hauler.
Well, what would be the difference in this price and what the private haulers are charging?
We're seeing right now, the price we're suggesting is still probably about $25, actually, a month
Yeah.
less. We are still a month less, yes.
In other words, a private collector is charging about
$150.
$150 a month to our $125 a quarter.
Well, I would recommend that our charges be comparable to the private haulers. Because Murray talked about not being in competition with the private haulers. Well, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to pay $125 per quarter instead of whatever it
The
is.
challenge with that though, Vice President Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we are an exact match and not coming in slightly below, it could yield customers to switch away economically to a different provider, which means that other residents will be further subsidizing commercial trash collection. Because customers that move away, we still have the same fixed costs, and we're not receiving the revenue side of it. We have to maintain another truck.
It isn't revenue, because we're undercharging
But we
what it's
have-
costing us.
But we have a vehicle that we use explicitly for these bigger cans.
No,
That if-
I'm not talking bigger cans.
But we already own
I'm
that
talking
truck.
about the green things.
Right.
We have done last
The 90
forever.
haulers.
When Mary and I talked, one of the things we talked about was the percent of increase. If we went to like the 150, that would have been more than
We were trying,
to keep a percent of increase, so it wouldn't be such a blast right away.
with the intent that we're going to look at
A
this.
blast to whom?
To the business owner. But we
Well, how
would,
about instead of making it a blast, let them get it gradual. This year it's gonna be this, next year it's gonna be that. No, you don't wanna do that either? So what do you wanna do?
Part of,
I said just give it to you. If
part
it
of
was
the
me,
logistics.
and I've been saving all
I
these
said
years,
charge it.
just charge me. And that's just me. I'm not a business owner on Main Street, so they might
I
be
can
mad
assure
at
you
me for
that's
saying
not the
that.
reaction we will get.
Yeah, but the other, go ahead, Mary.
Part of the logistics of this is that we also have to examine the town code and make sure that if we do suddenly take away commercial collection, or that we're addressing that. That's just, these
We're
are the
not taking
logistics
it away.
that we're working through.
But the other side of that is you say we're not taking it away, but the thing is that trash truck that does these commercial lifts, we have it, yes, but if we need to replace it for 9 customers, really? You know what I mean? How much does one of those cost?
For the dumpsters, the
Right.
larger.
How much does one of those trash trucks cost? A couple $100,000?
we're gonna bid it one out at the end of this month, and it's roughly about 280,000.
For 9 customers.
Oh.
What's the economics on that?
Oh, that's the other truck.
I'm
which
saying
is-
the commercial side is probably, like, the one that you would need to lift these 4 and 6 yard dumpsters.
But tell me that
It's
we are
probably
not,
close to that, right?
tell me we are
It's probably
not in the
225.
business of
But it's
buying a
used for
brand new
something else.
truck for 4
You use
dumpsters.
it for something else also.
We use the rear loader to do
Regular.
the 4 yard and the 6 yard, is what I'd like to really get away from, because it's a cable that hooks the back of the dumpster and it lifts the dumpster up. That's not safe, you got pulleys around that. If we did commercial, but just the waste wheelers, we could stay in that business to do commercial trash.
And it uses existing equipment that we can use for residential pickup and other pickup.
Yes.
But getting out of this big yard dumpsters is economically
One
a
of the
good deal for
things-
us.
One of the other things that Mary and I did look at was,
I agree.
our rate is actually the same, will be the same as the other companies. We don't charge a surcharge of fuel, and there was an environmental charge, and then there was a tax on that. Because we are here, we're not traveling. All the other companies would be traveling. Republic would be traveling to us, then doing the trash, and then going to the dump. Even like Seagull would still be traveling from a point to get to us, so.
But Jimmy Charles, let's go back 30 seconds here.
All right.
You're really not, tell me this, because I just want to be clear here. We're really not looking at buying a brand new truck to dump 9 dumpsters. We're not in that kind of business, are we?
No, we're getting out of them.
I'm just checking, because I mean, we're
But to
not.
know, but it's important to know that that truck is not going to last forever.
No, I hear what you're
And-
saying, but we're not gonna buy a new truck just for 9 dumpsters. That would be preposterous. If you're gonna buy a truck, it needs to service more than just these 9 daggone dumpsters, right?
The truck does waste wheelers automatically from the rear, and it does the 4-yard
Okay,
dumpster.
okay,
It
thank you.
does
That
multiple
makes 1,000
use.
times more
It is
sense.
not specific for the 10
Is there an
dumpsters.
additional cost for the rear portion lift? And what
Not
is
really.
that?
It's,
There's gotta be. There's gotta be wear and tear that's.
what the cost is gonna be replacing the dumpsters, because the dumpsters are $7,000 and $8,000 a dumpster.
See, we don't need to be doing that.
And we're hoping to get out of the dumpster business, because we can't afford to do dumpsters.
What's the exit plan for it? If we want to exit that, would the exit plan be July 1?
Stop.
We could promote, yes, whatever
We
we
could do that.
decide, we could do it at that point, yeah.
Thinking of
How does the
those
group feel? I mean-
dumpster
Right.
customers that were no longer going to be picking up the dumpsters after X date, we can add a provision in the code that requires customers to provide us with proof of a private contract.
As part of their business
Because part of
license?
what we want to discourage here is people
Public
keep
dumping.
dumping things wherever they want to dump them.
Public dumping.
And that's, yeah, and that's part of, when you start messing with trash, that becomes possible.
Can you make it a requirement of a business license to show proof of trash collection?
And who is gonna,
I would say we would do it more as on an on-request basis. If we suspect or have reason to believe that a business is not,
Okay.
doesn't have a private contract, then
As
we
needed.
demand. And then we can start, we can enter into a contract on their behalf and charge them for it. I mean, there's language that we could put into the code to cover us.
Now, let's talk
For
about
these
the little
things.
green things.
The waste trailers.
The waste wheelers.
I'll get you some water.
He just said you could switch to 4 waste wheelers for the same price as the dumpster.
Yeah.
see,
We're
there you
hoping
go,
to
that's
transform
nice.
into the waste
Say it again,
wheeler.
Kel.
4
Out of the
waste
dumpster.
wheelers would, same cost as a dumpster if you
It's a
wanted
40-yard
to.
dumpster.
Yeah, we're not saying that we're not going to pick up
Yeah.
people's trash. We're just saying that there's an economical way to be able to do that.
Right,
Yes.
Jimmy?
but you could do that.
And this 125 per quarter, I don't think.
Hold on one second. If Vice President Burrell has a question.
This, the 125 per quarter for each green thing.
Correct.
I don't think, I don't think that fee is sufficient. I don't think that fee is enough.
Is there any reason we can't bill monthly? Or is it just an administrative convenience to bill it quarterly?
It's not about quarterly, it's about per dumpster, it's the fee. We can
No, but I'm
bill
saying, is there any
monthly, bill them
reason,
quarterly.
either we increase the 125 to a quarterly rate, or we bill monthly?
I think it's just industry average. We're billed quarterly, we're private.
Okay.
We're private for obvious, for a reason that we're talking about here. You know,
Yeah.
We price it out too. So I just think it's quarterly, it's always been
It's just,
industry average, but it's
Can we, before we move on, can we get some consensus on the group about the 4 and 6 yard dumpsters?
I'd like to hear the community and economic development perspective on this topic, if there is one.
And again, it's not communities, businesses, whoever they are. They're not taxpayers in the sense that they live here. They're taxed because they're businesses.
Well, economic development.
Yeah.
I also live here too, remember that?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure why we are in the commercial trash business. I think there's a variety of dumpsters throughout town, and there could be a consolidation of dumpsters in a space with a fence around it that the businesses could contract an outside commercial trash company to work probably on a rate where they would come and they would take all of the downtown businesses' trash at once. It wouldn't have to be where each business would have to contract on its own.
But there's a way like the chamber could do like a co-op on that, basically.
If the chamber wanted to, I agree with what Councilmember Nichols was saying about the getting a new trash truck just for a few dumpsters. And we've got a dumpster back here behind Dave's office. We've got a dumpster, there's a variety of dumpsters, and when you're worried about people dumping, if you put the dumpsters in a fenced area and then, people would have to walk further to dump their trash, but it would be more sightly, it would look better downtown to have one central place for the trash. And I don't think that the town should be in the commercial trash business.
well, I think that what Ivy has suggested has a lot of merit. I also think it has a lot of logistical problems. Who's going to oversee that? Where is that fenced-in area going to be? The mayor just suggested the Chamber of Commerce. If it's not the Chamber of Commerce, it's going to be the town. And that's one more layer of work for someone to take on.
But we have an option. It is the small, as Dean says, the green cans. Like, we have that as a potential option. They can work with Public Works. We're not saying we're taking away trash entirely. We're saying that there is a more economically beneficial route to doing the service. And that's all we're saying. I'm just trying to get some consensus on the group, whether we can effectively start to message that we would like to exit that 4 and 6 yard dumpster business on July 1.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
And not only that, but I think in that whole welcome package to the new business owner, prospective business owners trying to buy into downtown Berlin, that needs, I feel that that could be a part of, and a part of their whole introduction. When you're going into this unit, we're not doing dumpsters. If you feel like you need a commercial dumpster, here a commercial dumpster, pump people. If you're using something smaller, here's that option. But we don't do commercial, you know what I'm saying? I just think in my head, it's all in.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah, most of the businesses can transition into the green. They can get 3 and 4 waste billers. Most of the dumpsters that we empty are not full all the time. So most of them could probably even get away with 3 waste billers.
Might even be more economical.
And those
It
friends who
possibly
can look elsewhere.
And then if they need a bigger volume, yes, then they can call other commercial haulers and let them come in. There is other commercial haulers that come through town.
Oh, yeah.
We don't
Also,
do all,
Yeah.
probably restaurants, we don't do all the restaurants' hauling.
All right,
Just,
so by consensus, you were in agreement, Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Yes.
Vice President Burrell?
Yes.
Councilmember Morris, yes?
Yes.
Councilmember Green, so it's unanimous by consensus that we'll exit that on July 1.
They'll have, with
4 and 6 yard
option.
dumpsters.
We'll start letting them know now.
Yeah.
Will we still raise the rates come January?
We will raise, raise the. I think it's better to, honestly, my thought is to just keep the rates flat, don't raise them, and let's exit the
So it's
business
only 6
July 1.
months.
But then.
We're not covering the cost
But
of the
then-
service.
Right, are we gonna raise them
Whether
when we
we're exiting
eliminate
the
it
dumpsters
though?
or not, we're not covering the cost.
We,
Right,
I-
but I don't think we should raise the price before we stop doing it.
yeah, I agree with Councilmember Morris. I think we've
No,
been
no,
subsidizing
no,
it this
no,
long.
no, I said we keep the dumpster price the same as it always been since we're gonna stop
In June.
in June. But we need to look at the price of those little green
Yeah,
cans.
that's 125 each.
I think it should
We're moving
be,
towards 150.
Sorry.
but that's quarterly.
Quarterly.
Yes, correct.
I really got a problem with that.
What is the, do you know the exact rate for a commercial hauler for that size can?
I do.
What is it? You told me to put you on the spot, but what is it?
So we have 2 cans, and it's 180 a quarter.
180.
Yeah, but we have not had that rate adjusted in, I told Jimmy, maybe 20 years. Of
Good.
course, here I go.
There you go, Steve.
You'll be calling me tomorrow.
Looking at our current rate of
Steve said.
$95 per quarter, that's about $30 a month. So compared to 180 quarter, it's about $60 a month, so we're still behind by half.
But we're
If
still
you
moving
convert
ahead.
it to monthly.
We're still moving ahead.
125,
For a
125.
quarter would be $50 a month.
Right,
Which wouldn't be it would be a.
which is getting us
which is
closer
very close to where we need to be.
to Steve's soon-to-be change rate.
Then we have to change it.
Yep, it's coming.
$50 a month,
For commercial businesses.
that's $200 a quart.
It's 150.
150. 3 months.
I pay on
3
the
months.
order.
4 quarters,
Oh.
Right.
3 months, 4 quarters.
So I mean,
So
this
the-
fee schedule is subject to whatever
So
changes
So
you
we're
wish
talking,
to make.
so we're saying 150, that's our number?
So I think we had,
$60 a year.
so is there consensus on the 150? Yes, Councilmember Nichols?
Yes.
Vice President Burrell, 150?
Awesome.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris, Councilmember Green? Councilmember Green?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Consensus
yes.
on
So
150?
it's 150
Per
per quarter
quarter.
per waste wheel.
Correct.
Yes. So if you have two, you're 300. If you have four, it's 600.
All right, so
The
now,
only other thing I need a firm
summarizing.
answer on is the license.
Oh, well, hold on, the long-term rental
Yeah.
license fee, I thought we had consensus on that, but
Did we?
What else did you talk
Councilmember
about?
Green, $50?
50
Hold
is
on.
what, go ahead.
Well, finish,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
finish that, let's finish the commercial
Let's
rate.
talk some trash.
Finish the commercial
Back
rate,
up.
and
Now
then
he's
we'll
ready to
talk
go to
about the next.
residential.
I think we did finish.
Okay.
We are at 150, just to summarize, for the commercial green can per quarter.
Per waste wheel.
We are keeping the 4 and 6 yard dumpsters unchanged at the current rate and exiting that business July 1, 2024. So I think that summarizes that. I want to come back to the residential wheeler in a moment. I haven't forgotten about you. I haven't forgotten about you. But let's get some consensus on the long-term rental license fee that Steve proposed at $50 upon renewal. Steve, I assume you're in agreement at 50
That's what I would throw out as very fair.
as a starting,
Yes.
I mean, a nice change, but we can reevaluate. Councilmember Orris at 50?
I mean, I'm okay with 50 if the group thinks that, I just think 50 is still low.
Okay.
I agree with Jack, but if the
Do you have a
group's
new
gonna
number?
go along with,
Well,
75.
Okay, so we've got 3 to
Do we have 100?
I feel like we're going back a couple of years on the tax rate.
Really and truly, I'd love to be at 100,
First,
I'm
but
sorry, it was at
I'll
75.
Is there a
75.
consensus on 75?
75?
Okay, so we've got consensus at
Steve, are you
75
good with 75?
Oh, I am.
for the long-term rental license fee upon renewal.
Right, to clarify, it will be an effective rate January 1, but for existing licenses upon renewal.
Correct. Now, I would like to go back to the 95-gallon waste wheeler for residential.
Where are we on?
Natalie, I'd like you to at least follow this one if you don't mind, both of you. So, the waste wheeler for residential, if you want an additional waste wheeler for residential, what is the cost? Because it's one time. What,
$100.
and that's
That is
it?
codified.
Set like in the code.
For an additional, so if we wanted to change that, we would need to change the code.
This was another section along with the 2,000 impact fee that needs to be changed. addressed.
I think personally, I'm okay with the $100 to start. But if there's an additional can, I think that should almost be billed quarterly.
Thank you, as a commercial. business.
Correct, I agree.
Hey, a residential building's a commercial?
We have
Only if they have an
residents who
additional
own 4
can.
to 5
Right.
trash cans.
Say that one more time.
We have residential who own 4 to 5 trash cans.
Let me set a stage here. We're the only town that our residential trash is in our taxes. Snow Hill, Princess Anne, Pocomoke, Salisbury, they all charge for trash, okay? When you have multiple cans, you pay the same rate as someone with one can. You buy the can, but we don't charge for the volume of that can. If you have 4 cans, you paid for the can, and the can cost us $100. The fee is like right $93 or something per can. So we charge 100, that's that percent by the code. But if you have 4 cans, you pay the same as someone with 1 can.
Well, I'm gonna
Which
say,
is- which
can
is
I
nothing.
say this though?
And let me do one more too.
Okay, keep going.
What I'm finding too is, when we go to apartments, they're only paying for 1 can.
Well, that's
And
commercial, so
they
they should
can,
all be charged. I'm sorry.
they can have 5, 6 cans. So they're still only paying, they pay for the can, but they're only, I would propose we put it a fee with your water bill to get every resident that's paying water and electric trash. And now, I don't have a number for that fee yet. We haven't really had a lot of discussions on that part.
I think that the best way that we could move forward immediately would be to change the code that says an additional can moves you to the commercial category. keep the,
No, I don't want to
Absolutely
say that.
not.
I
That
don't
doesn't
want to
make a
say
drop of
that.
sense.
If you
No.
got 2 cans, you move to the.
just for the +1.
No, I think it should be.
No, that's not true. Yeah.
I think it should be beyond 2.
Yes, I would agree with that to an extent, and I say that because what are we required to do? You can't put any trash on the curb unless it's in a can. So what does a person like Shanika Nichols do? She follows the rules. Oh, I don't want to put any trash on the curb, and I don't want my trash can overflowing, so I buy an extra can. But do I use it every week? Nope. So you know what I'm saying? So there are times when I know, certain times of the year, I'm going to use all 3 of my cans. But I'll,
You need to be paying for that third.
well, I pay for it.
You need to be paying for the second.
But listen,
Here we go.
stop talking for 35 seconds. Thank you. But what I'm saying is, on a regular basis, I use 1 can, and you can ask everybody that drops off, that picks up my trash. However, maybe 4 times a year, we use 2. Maybe Christmas, and another time we use all 3 because I don't want trash on the street, because I'm following the rules. So what are you saying? You're gonna make me commercial because and if that's the case, I'm not saying it because it's me. Don't take that wrong, folks. Soundbite, Steve. Don't take me wrong. But what I'm saying is, for the rule following folks, what are you gonna do? Penalize us?
You do
Well,
have to recall
is there-
that part of the reasoning behind limiting the number of cans and charging for additional cans is to encourage people to recycle, thereby reducing the volume that goes in the waste wheel.
And our tipping fees have been going like this.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful too, but let's be real.
I'm just saying.
We just
It's
had a
worth
whole
debating.
great big recycling debacle on the corner down there, which turned into a mess, right? Right, didn't it? So now we're right back to all the craziness of, if I leave it out there, is it really, I'm not even.
What about if we had, for the additional can, above 1 can residentially, it switches you to commercial for the +1, but hear me out. You could have a fee to do a special request for an additional can to be dropped off if you think you're gonna need it.
I think you are going way too far with that. That is way too far.
I agree,
But then there's gonna be trash, then you're gonna have trash on the curb, because
And you
guess
can
what,
fill
not
up
everybody
anything.
follows the rules, and I've seen it. Not everybody's gonna follow them and get your special request, or even your second can. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a fee, but that doesn't make any sense to me.
Similar to the impact fees, we know this is something we have to bring back, because currently, the additional cans are codified, there's nothing that we can do about it. So how about, instead of continuing this conversation tonight, we work on the rest of what we've got here, knowing that we're going to talk about this again. Yeah.
And I think we should, but I don't think you should make those folks commercial. That's just me talking.
Because Kelsey still has quite a hefty topic to discuss.
So any other changes to the proposed resolution or fees?
Okay, so we are doing 75 for the long-term rentals.
Correct.
150 each per can, per quarter.
May I suggest just to go up and list on the fee for additional cans then?
Well, we have to bring it back either way. So when we bring it back, we're gonna have a debate on it.
I think that's a great idea. More than 100 is
It's
fine.
not about how many cans, and it's not about that. The cost of fuel and the labor and the recycling, landfill charges going up.
Everything.
So Jimmy just stated that some of the residents have 4 cans.
But we have to change the
It don't make
ordinance.
sense.
I understand.
So they could, whatever they decide tonight is kind of meaningless until we change the ordinance.
Exactly, we can't just start imposing the fee until we actually write it into the ordinance, because right now there's no provision for it.
So go ahead, Jack.
So, okay, so we got that, and then we are eliminating the proposed commercial dumpster idea. And that's.
We're
just-
sticking with the 360 per quarter per dumpster.
Yep, and you're gonna, staff is going to work on the impact fee review to include possible emergency services, and also parking is gonna be discussed at some point in this, to
Yes.
come back.
I can't swear when.
No, yeah, and also the residential trash can
Yes, we are
fee
going
is
to.
coming back.
Talk about
Okay.
those and those rates, yes.
I'll go ahead then and motion that we approve all of that.
Second.
So I have a motion to approve by Councilmember Orris, a second by Vice President Burrell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Councilmember Nichols, where did you stand? Were you in favor?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So on resolution 2023-04, the vote was unanimous to approve. Thank you. All right, up next
You're probably
is,
gonna get your increase rate. It's just, if they're an apartment,
Thank you.
if they are an apartment and they got 15 dumpsters out there, they need to be commercial. Point blank period. That's my take on it.
all right, so up next is item number 4 on our agenda is a discussion of the Town of Berlin Employee Step and Grade System, Human Resources Director Kelsey Jensen, and Town Administrator Mary Boland at our own point.
This doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation because I'm proposing a work session at a later date. To be honest, I'd be more comfortable with closed, but I know, we've had some concerns about closing and things like that, but we will be discussing individual people at times too. So, but basically, they said it during the pay study that implementation of any step and grade system is the hardest part. They proposed, they being PayPoint when they came out, it's an attachment in here, it's the step and grade system that has 16 steps, or 16 grades, I'm sorry, with 21 steps. And then I know when we were looking at that, the mayor had indicated he wanted to see more grades, just to be able to space out positions a little bit more. So I made one up as well. That's the one that's 25 grades, 21 steps. The one I made is 5% between grades and 2.5% between steps. The one that PayPoint had recommended is 7.5% between grades and 2.5% between steps. But I don't know how you guys want to handle existing employees. I can go ahead and put people, where we've kind of discussed it as far as the pay study, but I've heard from several of you kind of at different times with different recommendations or wanting to see this or that as far as how it's implemented. So I just thought maybe the easiest thing, so I'm not doing 20 versions, is to just get us all to talk about it at a designated time and then have a better direction going forward.
Well, Kelsey, I'm all for a work session on this because I think it's deserving of its own time. But I also wanted to possibly throw out, not for discussion at that work session, is I think that part of the, I don't know if it's benefit's the right word, but one of the things about the step and grade system that I always thought was good was at the beginning, or at the step 1 to whatever level, it was a higher step increase, and then it kind of leveled out midpoint, and then that's kind of how I'm familiar with it. So I wanted to ask, you had said that you, I'm looking at your chart.
Yes.
You did 2.5% steps all the way across.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is what, that's what the county had when I worked at the county. Okay. We used a 2.5% between steps. It did not fluctuate along the way, but.
Well, I think the idea was earlier on in someone's career, they would earn more as they advanced. And then it would kind of, as that got higher, it would kind of plateau. So I think that's something to just talk about at the work session. I just wanted to put that in your thoughts.
Yeah, I think more grades, I'm definitely in favor with that. I just think that was kind of a shocking recommendation, I thought, from a point in time. I think providing more grades was a great step in the right direction for us. We definitely wholly support a work session. I think the step and grades, the creation of the step and grade system merits the time because frankly, this body, in my mind at least, when the step and grade system is in place, administration is handling that.
It's just...
And we're dealing with COLAs. Yeah. And I actually think that, we talk about the 35% and the 50%. It was those years, and no offense to anybody that was up here, but it was those years that it was 0%, 1%. Yeah. That's why we are where we are. And I don't know how and that's what gives me a lot of heartburn is, I know we went to 35% from the last budget, right? I don't know how we're gonna get to 50%. And I do think there may have to be some acceptance along the lines of that. But while still knowing that there's good faith being done here to affect a pretty massive change that I think was really a result of the change being needed because of some, just short-sighted decisions up here that flat-funded employees for a period of a few years. So we're trying to correct a wrong. I think that's important to do, but it's going to take some time, and I think it starts with that step and grade creation of that. So for a work session for sure.
So what we're thinking, just so that everybody knows where the mindset is, we're trying to get, as we do every year before the legislative session, a meeting on the books, which I think we've got a date pretty well firmed up, with the state level folks before they go into session for a work session. We're thinking we'd front load the meeting with that, follow up with another discussion on the step and grade system, and those would really be the two prevailing items for the meeting. And then no public session.
Like a big work session, first being legislative.
Correct. Yep, maybe an hour to each, and knowing that the likelihood of the pay point stuff going a little bit longer. So.
I just want to say, whatever we adopt, there needs to be a commitment to it.
Yes.
And it can't be, this year we'll do it, and next year we can't do it. I still remember how absolute Dave Fitzgerald was when it was asked about the fire department's increase. And it was no, he was absolute. He was absolute, yes, this is what it is and this is what it's going to be. And I think as a town and being committed to our employees for the service that they provide to our residents, we need to be that absolute.
I agree, and from a financial planning perspective and from a budgeting perspective, we've heard from our staff numerous times that they feel like they're the last budget item.
Yeah.
We want that to change. We want it to be known what our salaries are going to be up front, and then we're coming through and doing our other items. Now, to Steve's point, we may choose to adjust further with a COLA in a given year, but at least we would know from a pathway of recruitment and retention where everybody falls and a pathway for moving forward. So, all right, well, thank you. So we will plan that.
December 11th.
December 11th, thank you. Will be our work session.
Wow.
Wow.
Merry
Christmas to you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then up next, anything else, Kelsey? You good?
No, is that an off-council Monday?
No, it should be.
Okay, I was
the
gonna say,
second.
I gotta check my calendar for this.
No, it's the same one.
Okay,
And we'll just have a work session on December 11th,
Okay.
probably.
We've had a few items that were piling up for
Okay.
December
Then
11th.
maybe not. All right, we'll talk about that, but it'll be December 11th for a work session. So, all right.
All right.
We'll maybe lighten the agenda.
Let's talk about that.
We have like 2 meetings left, right?
Yeah, two. All right, reports, town administrators report and departmental.
The only thing that I have is that we are working to get quotes for striping on Seahawk. As we discussed at a prior meeting, we had a contract with the state, their truck broke down, the only other truck is somewhere off in the mountains, so we're kind of out of luck. So Jimmy is trying to gather 3 quotes, he has 2 at this point. Sometime in the next, hopefully, week or so, we will be sending an email. What we're trying to do is move this along quickly, possibly over winter break. Once you get beyond that, it's probably too cold. So we will be sending an email to the council for a poll vote, which will then be announced at a regular session. And when you receive a poll vote, you respond only to the sender, not to each other, or not to reply all, and then we go from there.
So am I asking too much with hopes that instead of truck is broken and the other one's not here, can we ask them to pay part of the bill?
No.
We've reached out to try and get them to.
Yeah, it's highly unlikely, but we're hopeful. We feel like it will not be a budgetary problem, and we are exploring partners.
So would we do just that space, or would we try to do other spots that we thought were needed, or just the one area?
We're trying to secure
Seahawk is the really big one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a heavy lift to get it done.
Yeah, we want to move quickly because otherwise then we're kind of stuck until spring, until the weather's improved, so. Anything else you wanted to add to that, Jimmy?
A normal street has 4 lines, if you think about it. And you have a white line, you have 2 double yellow lines, and you have a white line. But when we're dealing with the school, we have 4 lines just in the first 10 feet of the road. There's like 12 lines across there. And And 90% of that's all for the school, and there's so much additional cost that's going in with that project. The prismatic heated stickers, like the big arrows to show you to go in here, there's just so much more added just because of the schools. Now, they did complete their sort, part of the crosswalks, where they have landings, ADA required landings. We'll finish the first one that's on Seahawk, the other one is already completed. So, once we find all the funding, and then we get the vote.
And when he says that the crosswalk is completed, he does not mean the zebra striping, he just means the landing zones. The zebra striping would be part of walking.
Piano board.
So,
Yes.
with,
Sorry,
with
that
a
was
lot of this being,
London.
It's not at all.
with a lot of this being due to the schools and whatnot, is it possible the county might help?
As Mary said, we are
seeking
pursuing
partners.
partners.
Well, I
So-
mean, you were vague in that, so I didn't know what that meant. I'm going to.
Intentionally.
We're asking.
Oh,
Yes,
just that.
intentionally vague.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
So,
Okay, anything else?
No.
We good? All right, any questions for Mary or the departmental reports?
Mayor,
Okay, yes.
I do have a couple things. I'm sorry to be a pain and I won't keep
You're
you
not,
long.
go ahead.
Look, it appears that January 2nd is the notice to proceed for meter replacement. They should be in town hopefully January 3rd to start changing out the meters. I know it's gonna be a bad time of year, cold, but we're changing them out. So, yeah, so bear with us. Your water will be interrupted. They're gonna hang door notices. It gives us a little time to get a map drawn up and everything out in public service and everything. So that is coming up January the 2nd is notice to proceed, and they plan on starting, they wanted to start on December 18th, but they said they were only be here for 5 days, and I didn't want to start right before Christmas, so January 2nd is probably when they're going to be starting, or January 3rd, somewhere's in there. Also, we started last week with Pine, Franklin, and Nelson with the stormwater replacement program or process. We've had a few hiccups and bumps and stuff in the way. We're working that out. If you live in the area of Graham, Grice, Pine, Cedar, Maple, you will be out of water. There's some things we have to do to try to minimize. There's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot of conflicts, there's a lot of, well, one is, my big thing is lead service replacement too while we're going through, so you will be interrupted, but we are gonna have to work some nights. You're gonna have to bear with us. There's gonna be a lot of people out of water at least one night, but we've come up with a plan and to try to minimize it so it doesn't happen to everybody. So, looks like we're gonna be putting some new valves in that area, and I'll keep you posted, but, I really don't know what else to say until we get a little bit more later this week from Bramble, but they're working with us really well, and I'm appreciative that they received the job because they've been really helpful in doing some of the logistics of trying to get everything working.
What area?
Pine Street, Cedar, Maple, like over in the Purdue, over by that area, Nelson. We have to shut off pretty much that whole center of town.
And you said you're trying to do this work at night?
We have to put a couple valves in at nighttime so we can minimize, one, being there's a couple businesses, the gymnastics and the Berlin Activity Depot, I can't go in there and tell them, well, where are you gonna be out of water for the day and you got a business going on? So we've made that decision to do it at nighttime or try to do it a Saturday or Sunday. Preferably, I'd rather do it at night than Saturday or Sundays because you can't get parked much on the weekend. You can get them a little bit better during the week.
Now, will it be turned off all night?
It could be. Hopefully, like 9 o'clock at night till probably wee hours in the morning. We will be here. We're working with them to try to get it back on as quickly as possible. There's 3 valves at the end of Nelson and Graham we need to change.
That time, you're pretty certain will not extend into the morning?
Our plans are is we're going to have it excavated, and when we shut the water off, we go to work. We have all of our parts. We're going to test pit this week. They're gonna test pit the holes and get all their parts together. We do have some stockpile parts. I also, in good relation with Ocean City and Worcester County to get parts. Usually them guys will do whatever, they'll help us out, which we help them out, because we're close by. So we will do our best minimum to have everybody back on by 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
And the notice that will be going to these folks will go how far in advance?
I try to do 72 hours as my rule of thumb. I love to do 72 hours, 48 at least. But 72 hours is that way people can plan. You go too much further than that, people kind of get the tendency to forget, and then, but, you know, I don't know what else to do, and I'm trying to minimize the people being out of water and trying to work our due diligence and be respectful to the people that live in that area too.
Well, and I think the other takeaway, Jamie, is that you all have done fabulous work on the project, and that at the end, we realize it's an inconvenience. We're not gonna diminish that, but at the end of the day, the end product is gonna be much better for the residents and the service reliability.
And that's the other thing too, is, I mean, putting these new valves in, we can minimize people being out too. That's our big goal.
So thank you for that, and thanks for briefing us. All right, anything else? We good? Okay, so any questions for any other departments? All right, seeing none, let's move to comments from the public. Anyone that would like to address the mayor and council, yes, just please come forward, name and street name.
Marie Villalon, 400 West Street. Number one, I want to thank Jamie and Water Resources because they did a great job on West Street where they replaced an aging, very aging valve with 3 so that they now can turn off the water in 3 different directions where they didn't have it. And when they discovered initially this valve was unreachable. They were doing the Evans Road project with the warehouses. And I saw a guy out in the middle of the road with his arm in a hole, and I've never seen that, and I have worked around this stuff, so I thought that was interesting and went out and asked what the hell they were doing. And he said that he was getting to the valve. And they were digging out dirt trying to get to this valve. So had we had an incident where they needed to get to it, they would have had to be out there for 2 hours just digging to get to it. When they did it, I missed the beginning part, but they ran into a broken valve. Is that correct? I'm sure you have pictures of it. I saw it. I didn't take a picture of that. That valve has been leaking God knows how long. I have always had poor water pressure and blamed all of the development in the area on that. It was leaking quite a bit. It wasn't a little leak, it was a broken pipe that was running to the valve. To me, this shows where our money should be going. First and foremost, before you start talking about any of the extra stuff, you need to get our infrastructure done, all of it. And you would be reducing the cost of all of the treatment because you're not treating water that's just going into the ground and not getting to the customer anyway. It was very eye-opening, and I will fight you on any of this extra stuff until you get our roads and our streets. And it's not just West Street. This is an old town, and it's been ignored for as long as I've lived here. There's very little being done. I mean, you wouldn't have the pump station you have that's however many years old if something had been maintained. Our idea of this town should be maintenance of what we have first, and then you get your wants in. I do thank you. I want to know what the strategic plan is planning. I am very unclear what that's about.
What the whole strategic plan is about?
Yeah, what are we planning? What is the strategic plan of?
So it's for the strategic direction for the entire town of Berlin.
And how? I mean, that's very broad.
Well, it is, but by design. So like your idea of infrastructure investment, right? Like we share that goal, but it's nice to solidify it in a plan to say, look, we know we have some aging infrastructure. We know this body has made tremendous investments in our infrastructure, but we realize that we still have some stuff that is out of date and that needs to be replaced. And that's one of our key priorities, right? So those things, identifying what the priorities are, laying out a plan, and then further articulating where the money is spent in relation to those strategic initiatives.
Those
Does that make sense?
questions that were sent to the people didn't promote that type of thinking. It seemed more...
It seemed to resonate in our like smaller groups that infrastructure, to your point, was one of the key components of, is that an accurate summary?
I would say so,
I think
yeah.
so. And that was actually something that not just maybe you maybe mentioned on yours, but that among the survey participants, that folks felt that was something worth investing more money in. So it's a nice way where we can say, these are our strategic priorities, this is where our budget is, how does that align with where we want to be?
When they made those comments, was that under other?
Well,
Because
I
that's
don't,
what
I
those
think that's,
questions were weird.
I think that they were designed by the consultants to be a little bit more broad and spark folks to be able to think more broadly about a strategic pathway for the town. But I would say that some of those questions may be better asked by them when they come in for their presentation of the
Yeah,
phase
but that'll
one.
be too late. You already sent out the survey.
But that doesn't, but the
I mean, we're already
survey,
paying them for the first phase. That's the first phase.
right, but the survey was not designed either in a vacuum. It was designed with input from the consultants, from the mayor's office, the staff, the council, our boards and commissions, like those things had been factored into the survey. So,
Well, my other
I think-
question was, when you do your groups that you have listed, it sounds to me like it's all of the people that are normally your yay-sayers, as opposed to just the ordinary residents.
what do you mean by that?
I was told that at the meeting that it was going to be businesses, it was going to be We Heart Berlin, it was going to be strategic groups of people that were involved in this, and
The
I
group
didn't
consisted
understand
of,
that.
Sarah, can you give a rundown of the?
I don't have the list in front of me of all the stakeholders who were already invited for the stakeholder group meetings, but we do have, and I don't know if it's part of phase 1 or phase 2, but we do have other open house community listening sessions that will be scheduled in the future, so that it would be open to all residents to come and have one-on-one conversations with the
but
staff.
who are
from
these
Beacon.
stakeholders?
Well,
I mean,
and
is
the
that
stake-
something that we get to know
Well, the
about?
stakeholders, I mean, they're not mysterious. The stakeholders are designed to be cross sections of the community. I know that we personally proposed a list that was much bigger than what was originally adopted by the consultants. It was trimmed down a little bit to make it a more manageable group. But the cross section, that the invitations that went out, I think were pretty broad. From industry partners to like the hospital, the school system,
Churches, restaurants,
yeah,
businesses.
yeah, I mean, we tried to make a cross-section of the town the best we could.
But there will still be other opportunities, and as I said, I don't know if it's in phase 1 or phase 2, where there will be open forums, open to all community members, those who've already responded to the survey and those who have not.
This isn't a one and done thing, so, but.
I'm not saying it is, I'm just worried that the input is just selective.
I mean, it is selected to be.
Selective.
Well, I don't think that's the case. We did a public survey, we want to open that up to the public as much as possible, but at the end of the day, we do have to have a strategic plan that folks can dissent on and offer input on. And that can't be developed by everyone, you know what I mean?
What other towns have done this?
I think quite a few, it's a standard practice. to have a strategic plan when you're running a business or a municipality or a government.
Do you have one?
It was done in 2016, it's been out of date for a long time, so.
On the fees, I don't understand why they're not based on time and labor too. I mean, it just seems like you're picking a number, and I know where I worked, we had to pretty much justify that fee by our time spent and labor and all of that too. I mean, it wasn't just something that because it was $25 in 2013, it's $35 now, just based on inflation. It should be based on time spent on that particular permit or whatever, and the labor involved, the gas, all of the trucks and stuff that are involved in all of that. And that's where you get a good idea of how to charge people, instead of just basing it on the way you work.
Well, I think that if you see the deliberations and the proposals, I think some of that went into the calculation of various fees, but you can see that there was a lot of attention placed at the staff level on making sure that they didn't rise astronomically in a given year, that we were trying to move the needle on the fees to bring them up to some current rate, but as even the deliberations among the group, they were still in some ways below market rate, even though we're moving the needle pretty far.
But they should still be based on that, even if it's
But there
too
was,
high.
there were bases for many of them. For
Were they?
example, when we talked about the rental, it was based, I mean, we talked about, Steve gave the numbers of what rental rates are in all of our neighboring municipalities. So that was part of where we came from, on top of where we left and where we plan to go. And then the thing with the dumpsters, they just pulled the dumpster price from what the person who has the same size dumpster is charging for their dumpster removal versus what we're charging and where we'd like to be. So it wasn't like, we weren't just pulling numbers. We were relating them to services, to services, relatable services, parallel services, and seeing where we could fit.
Yeah, that's something I have to state. I think the only thing, the position that I think we were trying to take was that we know that expenditures are going up and revenues can only go up so much, that the idea with these rates was to narrow that gap a little bit before we come into budget time when we have to make those decisions that we don't like to make. That's kind of where I was looking at it. I think it was easing that gap a bit and addressing fees that haven't been touched in far too long.
And on the parking thing, you could call it a parking usage fee and do that. And the other thing is, what is the requirement for a residential building that has to have parking? Do you have a
2
requirement?
spaces per dwelling unit.
To me, if you are going to require a residence to have the 2, then I know that commercial parking is based more on building square footage.
The use and the square footage.
Yes. But at the same time, there is a definite number that's involved in all of that. And you can base your usage fee on that instead of whatever. And that was all.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Just name and street name, come forward if you don't mind.
Mary Lusky, but I don't want to talk to you guys. Tim Lawrence, thank you. My granddaughter was one of the kids that came through on one of your tours.
Oh, okay.
Plan, and she just thought that that was the greatest thing that she's ever been to.
Cool.
So I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kids really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good job, thank you. All right, up next, any other comments from the public? Okay, let's move on to comments from the council. And we'll start with Vice President Burrell.
Last meeting, I actually announced that I was having surgery on November 7th. Well, needless to say, that date was canceled. And it was canceled because one of the doctors had a medical emergency. And I'm sure glad he had it on Monday and not Tuesday.
Amen.
So I got another date today that I'm not gonna share yet because it has not been confirmed. So I still anticipate having this surgery and being away from the council for a while.
Well, we still wish you a speedy recovery whenever that occurs, but we're glad that it did not occur on Tuesday either.
No,
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay. Councilmember Nichols?
I think the only thing I want to say is, I know it may appear that we go back and forth when it comes to the suggestions and the thoughts and whatever on how to make changes. I think the biggest thing here is, it's been so long since any major change has happened that, and we all know that change needs to happen, and I hope that everybody out there understands that this change will, at the end of the day, make an effect. It will directly affect how we do business come budget seasons, maybe not directly this season, but years to come. So if we're living in if we're working in a group where we're paying this, and we're living in a world where we should be paying this, all we're trying to do is even it all out at the end of the day, so that you're not slapped in the face, for lack of a better term, because it wouldn't just be you, we'd all be slapped too, when it comes to an increase in another way. So it's not like we're like, hit you here, hit you here, hit you here. We're just trying to be realistic on a lot of these fees and things that have not been addressed since I was like 14 years old. Let's say that.
Thank you. Councilmember Wars?
Well, yes, thank you. It was kind of mentioned earlier that the tipping fees are gonna go up. So obviously that was gonna, the reason I was mentioning it here was that's obviously gonna affect our budget and something we can talk about with the fees. I did want to follow up on, I believe it was Vice President Burrell who asked, and we budgeted for GIS mapping of our infrastructure. Is there a status on that? I mean, I'm not pushing it, but where?
So the way that it's budgeted currently, it's for a agreement to move us kind of toward the front of the line. We also would like to move something forward, like a citizen reporter. We've discussed it with the GIS folks. They did have a little bit of a changeover in personnel. So we need to come back and revisit some of that with them.
Okay. And I'm just curious, has there been response, positive, negative, to the uploaded drainage maps? Has anyone reached out to you?
I don't know.
And then just the other thing is we seem to be doing a lot with Salisbury University, which is great, and Beacon and whatnot. But I'm wondering if, in an effort to get some more depth on the bench and assist Dave and Carolyn with their admin duties in planning, is there a program or a major or whatever that allows for interns that we can get through Salisbury University who are interested in city planning and zoning, who can kind of get on the job exposure while also helping our department? Is that a possibility?
We have that pathway already. So if folks are interested, they can apply for an internship, specify that they would like to be in planning and zoning. We have had that in the past, but it's demand-based.
We had one, not this past summer, the summer before. His name was Jack, getting his last name, but he was a
Not
major.
yours.
It wasn't me.
He
No,
was,
just kidding, but that's great. So that we do have one. He was.
He was an urban planning major, and he did some GIS work for us.
Yeah.
And he did some GIS work with Megan in Jamie's department, updating some of our files. And so and Carol and I put him to work on some things, but he wasn't, we would have had to train him in a short period to do what we needed. So it could be done. but we need to have a, you know, a plan, maybe a continuing intern. They do it at the end of each semester until they graduate, something like that. I don't know.
We have definitely made use of interns over the years in a variety of capacities. What we typically find, and this is not a detriment at all, what we typically find is they come to us with a project.
Yeah.
So to put them to work in just a kind of a general capacity usually doesn't work out.
And you always want to have like a capstone for the interns as well. It helps for like a resume booster and stuff. But plus, there's the staff management time that goes into it as well. So, but yes, there is a pathway for that.
May I say, Salisbury is not the only university.
We accept it from all.
So
UMES, Warwick.
So how do we publicize that? Like, is that on the website?
Yep. Mayor's office, internships, any one of our departments.
So if I'm a student and I want to intern with the planning department, what makes me want to go to the mayor's office to apply?
I think it's under employment.
Yeah, it's under
Employment
It's under
opportunities.
employment.
Yeah, in the government.
It just
And
links
usually if
there.
the students reach out to their professors point them to every town in the area. So it does trickle
Or maybe
down.
it goes to info, I mean.
So we're not doing that like that. Okay.
I
No,
don't,
I
I don't
can-
believe it's on the employment page, but I may be.
I can tell you exactly where the application is, and it has a rolling deadline.
For internships.
Internships, I mean, it's under the mayor's office, but it is, if you go to berlinmd.gov, I think it's /internships, or become involved, it's right there.
And then my final.
The URL off the top of my head.
Okay. No,
That's where it's at.
Thanks.
I know where it goes when you apply there.
What are the usual office hours? Is it 8 to 4, 8 to
For what?
4:30 for downstairs?
8 to 4.
8 to 4. So when we are closed for a holiday or whatnot, do we usually put up any signs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we post it to social media and all the other stuff.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that
And the
happened.
television station. It's
I
all
did-
they do.
I did receive a photo of the door that did not have a sign, so on Friday. So I just wanted to make sure that is
There was
happening.
a sign.
There was, I was here
Absolutely
Friday.
was a sign.
There was a sign, maybe it fell down, but there was a sign Friday.
We had one too.
Just asking.
It was on the bottom half of the door, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Okay. Just asking.
Should be decided.
Oh,
I
that's,
saw it.
and that's
Is that
all.
it?
Yep, thanks.
Councilmember Green?
Just had a couple things I just wanted to point out. I felt there were some instances when town resources were really on display, and I really, we haven't met in 3 weeks, but the not touch a truck or treat, that was so much fun. You guys, wish my kids had kind of outgrown that by now, but the electric department, Tim, I mean, your buddy, the way he got that pole, we don't ever forget that, but your electric display and everything in Public Works and water, Jamie, thought it was fantastic. Please, I'm sorry for missing anybody, but that's a great fun event. And then Halloween, while I know it's not a town-sponsored event, but it is I'm gonna call it a holiday in Berlin. And it's treated like a holiday at my house. It's just amazing what our community puts together here. This is, I mean, it's all our residents and businesses do it. And it's just, I think it's an amazing thing. Berlin has become the spot. You know, we had 800 trick-or-treaters this year at our house. When we lived on Washington Street, we used to have 2,000.
How do you tally that, Charles? What do you do? Like, click it?
One piece of,
Oh.
One M&M at a time.
but, so it's just, one of these days I look forward to getting out and about town and actually enjoying it myself. But it's a wonderful thing. The town, we should all be very proud of what we do. I think it's quite a festive atmosphere. And then also thanks to the town resources that helped with the Buckingham March. That was a fun display. 200 people came out to support a good effort. So please led the way. We appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you. Vice President Burrow.
I have a question, again, related to trash.
You can't get off the topic, can we?
Just, how does nonprofits play into this trash collection things, including churches?
Well, churches are exempt through the code. I saw that.
I don't know that I would say that. I don't know.
There's no fee for any of the churches.
Or the fire company,
Or the fire company.
even the additional can.
I don't know, I don't know of
This guy.
any nonprofits that are on our list, but then I don't know of the many nonprofits,
Yeah.
but but I know the churches are not on any of it. I think I saw where we don't charge them.
I would have to look at the code.
No church.
I can't speak to that specifically.
We have a lot of churches. Yes, we do.
And they have multiple kids. I mean, I'm not saying to charge them, I'm just saying.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. All right. Up next, comments from the mayor. I want to also thank, we had a touch truck event over at Worcester Prep, electric, water resources, public works, police, were all present, so thank you for that. One of the other things that came of that, we didn't have a coloring book that we liked a whole lot from the municipal standpoint, so my wife did create a coloring book with many of you featured in it. It's pretty solid. Yeah, we have those. They'll be available, I think, a few at the visitor center as well as downstairs in customer service. We've also made copies for the pre-K at Buckingham and Worcester Prep to be able to give to the kids for Municipal Government Works Month as an outreach item. So pretty cool. Thank you for that. What's that?
Thank you to her.
Well, Chelsea made it, not me, but you don't want me to make that coloring book, but I can barely color. But no, so it was nice to see that come of it. Happy American Education Week. Steve mentioned the March for Buckingham Elementary, cause that we all champion, but also American Education Week is this week, so everybody that works in our school systems, whether that's a teacher or support staff, we appreciate the work that you do. We appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you.
The Operation Greenlight, I want to thank Tim and his department for that. Actually found that through a county, National League of Counties initiative, so it was really nice to see us champion that idea, and I think it even caught on even further than just municipal.
Some residents got to do it.
Residents, I think Firehouse had some stuff lit up and some other folks, so thank you, Tim, to your department. And then I want to highlight the tree arrival tomorrow. The town Christmas tree will arrive between 3 and 4, the Atlantic Hotel.
We're hopeful that the tree will be on parade at 3 p.m.
Okay. Downtown, the parade route will consist of Chief from, Chief and Ivy.
Tripoli.
I was going to say, it was those.
Yeah,
Tripoli.
Main
So-
Street.
escorted by the Chief of Police.
All I said is we'll go wherever you said go.
Right, so the parade route for the tree is Alan and crew. They are driving to pick up the tree in the truck.
Right.
They are transporting the tree to St. Paul's parking lot, hopefully around 2:30.
Yep.
Then Randy will be there, Randy Davis, with his horse and carriage and trailer that I don't know how he acquired it, I'm not gonna ask. They're gonna move the tree from the truck to the carriage, and then he's going to parade through the town, Tripoli, Main Street up to the fire company, and then turn around, and then come back, and then he will unload the tree with the help of staff.
And we will have
To the Atlantic Hotel, and there will be a choir singing from Stephen Decatur.
And we're taking a simplistic parade route this year, because it is our first time. Chief, you don't want to know the parade route, I want to know.
I was going to say, it's not simplistic.
But we are taking a simplistic route to hopefully not damage the tree in the route. So it will be a more trimmed down route this year, but.
And it'll be a new time next year.
Yes, the Chief of Police will be traveling with it next year.
But it'll be a new time.
And not, yeah,
Okay,
not when
whatever
there's,
you want.
not when there's
School buses.
Oh, well.
Yeah, right.
That's true, but we'll live and we'll learn through this one. It's our first time, so. But thank you, Ivy and Sarah, for helping coordinate that, Chief. Thank you as well, and Tim for your department. I saw Alan beside the tree.
Yep.
Looks good. Okay, all right, so then, you good, Chief?
We're good.
All right, comments from the press? Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead. You hung out with us, so we'll,
Yep.
what's up?
Just a couple
name,
questions.
well, you should just state we know each other, but.
Cindy
name-
Hoffman with Bayside Gazette.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a couple quick
I
questions
have to
about
say,
the-
you're probably the first time in almost 8 years that I've had somebody take us on. So go ahead.
Well, my deadline's tomorrow, so I
Hey,
need my questions
fire
answered
away,
tonight. With the PFAS.
Yes.
Are you currently involved in litigation?
So the
Or
way,
is this new? I'm
So-
confused by the dialogue.
I'll try, but
Okay.
we'll lean on our town. Okay, go ahead.
The way this was set up, when this class action was filed in South Carolina, every government, be it state, county, municipality in the country who had a water system which serves more than 3,300 people was named a plaintiff.
Oh.
So the town of Berlin, we were contacted regarding this about a month ago. And knowing that we're not equipped to, staff-wise, to get involved in something so complex as that. That's why we engaged these law firms to represent our interests.
Okay, and then is there a cost to the?
No.
No cost?
No, it's a standard contingency fee arrangement where the lawyers don't get paid unless we get money. They get a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no out-of-pocket cost to the town.
Okay, and the PFAS are found in the water? Is that what the
That's
lawsuit
what
is
I'm
about?
told. That's a Jamie question, but yes.
Yes, that is in their drinking water.
Okay, okay. That's it? Thanks.
We're happy to help. All right. Any other comments from the press? Okay.
No.
Vice President Burrell?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Don't. Don't even say. There are things you can do, but that is not one.